Chapter 1446. The flames of Sanchez's revolution have been ignited. Ajuin turned his head to look at the red flames burning the sky and laughed loudly. This fire will burn the demons very miserably and painfully. He had casually gifted an opportunity, dug a hole in the abyss of fear, and started a fire. This was a fire pit. I think Sanchez will be able to give the Dread Fiend King a headache for a long time. Where there was oppression, there would be resistance. Sanchez's flames of revolution was a type of law power. As long as there was unfreedom, inequality, and injustice in the multiverse, then this flames of revolution would never be extinguished. As long as the flames of revolution were not extinguished, Sanchez would not die. In a sense, Sanchez had already become an immortal existence. With Sanchez's revolution in the abyss of fear, this was the first pit that Ajuin had dug for the Dread Fiend King. The second pit will be dug in the Bone Wasteland. Ajuin sat on the back of the nightmare beast and leisurely advanced. Not long after, a grayish-white and deathly still land appeared in front of Ajuin. This was the Bone Wasteland, the venue of the Son of God's trial. At this moment, countless evil demons had gathered in the outer area of the Bone Wasteland. Large flags fluttered high up in the air as the sons of saints from the various families of the abyss of fear gathered at the entrance of the Bone Wasteland with their respective subordinates. The Dread Fiend King had spread his seeds all over the world, and over the countless years, he had given birth to countless descendants. At this moment, there were more than 100,000 sons of God gathered at the entrance of the Bone Wasteland. 100,000 sons of God and billions of evil demons were simply covering the sky and the earth. As for Ajuin's team, the hundreds of evil demons had already fled when a nightmare beast charged. After displaying his might and intimidating a group of sons of God, Ajuin could not be bothered with those evil demon subordinates who had fled. Now, Ajuin's team only had one guard and a nightmare beast left. Such a shabby team was not even a speck of dust in the billions of evil demons. However, Ajuin himself was the flag, and he alone was an army. He is Nefarian. It's said that he has awakened his origin blood, and his power is extremely terrifying. Nefarian is so arrogant to bring only one guard to participate in the Son of Saints trial. Have you heard? The Holy Flame clan had tried to recruit him, but he had rejected them. Looks like he's aiming for the position of the chief Holy Son. Too stupid. It was foolish of Nefarian to reveal his strength so early. You don't know how to endure. You're courting death. Regarding Ajuin's arrival, the various Holy Sons had different opinions. Some were filled with admiration, some with fear, some with disdain, and some with hatred. Ajuin was unperturbed and could not be bothered with the Holy Son's chatter. Being in the limelight was not because Ajuin wanted to show off. By doing so, he was setting a trap for others and digging a hole for others. Nefarian's performance must have attracted a lot of attention. Even the Dread Fiend King might have noticed him. In this way, Ajuin would be treated like a main character. He would become a troublemaker and attract a lot of firepower. Just like the Holy Fire Lake family, when all kinds of forces came knocking on his door, Ajuin could dig countless holes and create many existences similar to Sanchez. It was much more convenient for Ajuin to come and be tricked than for Ajuin to find them one by one. There are already 100,000 Holy Sons here. I could dig many holes. When countless rebellions and revolts appeared in the abyss of fear, the territories of the various families would be filled with the flames of war. The foundation of the Dreadlord's rule would be on the verge of collapse. At that time, the Sailor Moon would be able to destroy you on behalf of the moon. His Highness Victor would be able to teach the Dreadlord the virtue of the holy light. Ajuin himself, engaging in conspiracy and subversion, was what the embodiment of darkness and evil should do. Kaboom! Kaboom! In the distant horizon, crimson flames lit up the entire sky. In this fiery red light, the 5 legend Dreadlords floating in midair suddenly exploded into ashes. What's going on? The Lord has fallen. The Lord in charge of the Son of Saints' trial has fallen. Panic screams sounded one after another. At the entrance of the white-bone wasteland, the billions of demons that gathered were instantly in a state of panic. Who is the enemy? What kind of power is that crimson flame? Even the legend dreadlords in charge of the Son of Saints' trial had died, and 5 legend dreadlords had died at once. How powerful was the enemy in the crimson flame? More importantly, would that guy come here to kill his way in? Freedom, equality, justice. The mighty declaration shook the heavens and the earth, and the crimson flames swept in all directions. An impassioned figure stepped on the crimson flames and walked towards the white-bone wasteland step by step. As he walked step by step, the raging sea of flames burned fiercely and swept towards the white-bone wasteland. Ah, he's coming. Quickly run, quickly run. Even the 5 legend dreadlords in charge of the Son of Saints' trial could not block one attack from this enemy. How could they block it? Running for their lives was the only choice. Among the holy sons gathered at the entrance of the white-bone wasteland, many of them had already turned and fled with their armies. Idiots! This is the king of trepidation's kingdom. No matter how strong the enemy is, how could he be stronger than the king of trepidation? Many holy sons felt that this might be a test from the king of trepidation. Cowards were not fit to participate in the Son of Saints' trial. Face the enemy. Prepare for battle. The holy sons who wanted to perform well were prepared for battle and were ready to fight bravely. Indeed, Sanchez is here. Very good, very good. Audiobook looked ahead with a smile as he watched Sanchez riding on a monstrous flame and burning all the way. Creating a flame of revolution was, of course, to play a sufficient role. At this time, the king of trepidation should be unable to sit still, right? Audiobook looked in the direction of the city of trepidation, and a smile appeared on his face. Indeed, the king of trepidation had appeared. How dare you cause trouble in my kingdom? You're courting death. There was a loud sound in the sky, and a pitch-black cloud condensed in midair and transformed into a huge palm that covered the sky and earth. It slammed down on Sanchez's head. The king of trepidation is here. This fellow is dead meat. Seeing this scene, all the demons present cheered loudly. It's too early for you to be happy. Audiobook sneered. The flame of revolution won't be extinguished so easily. Boom! There was an earth-shattering sound. The crimson-red flame and the impassioned Sanchez were slapped to the ground by the king of trepidation. Heaven and earth shook, and the mountains shook. More than half of the crimson-red flame was extinguished, but there was still a small portion of flame that scattered and scattered in all directions. Among them, there was a ball of flame that coincidentally landed in the white-bone wasteland. There was one more dangerous place in the Son of Saints' trial grounds. The future is bright, but the road is tortuous. Sanchez, the flame of revolution will never be extinguished. You will be resurrected after some time, and you can continue to cause revolution. Audiobook smiled and turned to look at the white-bone wasteland. Looking at the ball of flame of revolution scattered in the white-bone wasteland, he sneered in his heart. It's impossible that none of these holy sons are not oppressed, right? The flame of revolution will continue to be ignited. I wonder if these 3 chapters will be 404. It should probably not, right? The author was very nervous. Chapter 1447. 3 days later, the Son of Saints' trial will continue as usual. After killing Sanchez in one blow, the fear-fiend king could not be bothered with the scattered flames. He instructed the Son of Saints' teams and turned to leave. From the fear-fiend king's point of view, the flame of revolution was Sanchez's power. As long as Sanchez was killed, the scattered flames would be completely negligible and would not cause much of an impact. This was a common-sense understanding. Unfortunately, the power of a certain bastard had never been related to common sense. Audiobook sneered. A single spark could start a prairie fire. It would be an unforgivable mistake to overlook any bit of fire of revolution. Subsequently, the fear-fiend king sent over 10 legend fear demons to the Bone Wasteland to organize the Son of Saint's trial. Son of Saint, report to the Bone Tower immediately. Standing on a tall tower at the entrance of the Bone Wasteland, a legend fear demon shouted loudly. This is Lord Gondos. His Majesty the King of Terror sent him over. Lord Gondos is one of the 10 demon generals under the King of Terror and is deeply trusted by His Majesty the King of Terror. Lord Gondos is extremely powerful. Looks like His Majesty places a lot of importance on this trial. Something happened just now. His Majesty definitely wants to prevent something similar from happening again. It's normal for him to send Lord Gondos over. The Sons of Saints discussed fervently while Audiobook smiled. It's useless no matter how many people he sends. Audiobook glanced at the legend demon standing on top of the Bone Tower and shook his head with a smile. Lord Gondos, I hope you have not been oppressed. Otherwise, you will also become a great revolutionary. The Sons of Saints all walked toward the Bone Tower to verify their identities and receive their military tags. The Bone Wasteland had a rune array set up by the Fear Fiend King. Other than the Fear Royalty, anyone who entered the Bone Wasteland would be instantly killed by the array. Each saint had brought a group of troops with them. In the Son of Saints trial, commanding the army in battle was the key test. These troops were not the Fear Royalty. To enter the Bone Wasteland, they needed a military tag. Otherwise, they would be killed by the array. Every Son of Saint is allowed to have a maximum of 10,000 troops. Each saint could only receive 10,000 military tags. Don't try to hide anything. Don't try to bluff your way out. Otherwise, you'll die a horrible death. In front of the White Bone Tower, a group of demons handed out military badges to the Holy Sons. You're Nefarian? When Audiobook arrived at the Tower of Bones, the demon in charge of issuing military tags looked at Audiobook in surprise and nodded. Not bad. A bloodline as pure as yours is already very rare. Which family are you from? Family? I don't have a family. Audubon shrugged his shoulders and shook his head. Where did he come from? No family. The legendary demon nodded and didn't care too much. It was said that Nefarian came from a lowly background. He was probably a descendant of a dread royal who fooled around outside. This sort of thing was very common in the Abyss of Fear. That's enough. This is your 10,000 army token. Take it. After registering Nefarian's name, the legendary demon grabbed a storage pouch and handed it to Audiobook. 10,000 army tokens. Audiobook opened the storage pouch and saw 10,000 black magic iron tokens. He shook his head. Actually, I only have a nightmare horse and a guard. I only need one token. A guard. The legendary demon was stunned. You only have one guard, and you want to participate in the Holy Sun trial? You intend to fight 10,000 people alone? One idea. Poor. No money. Can't find a guard. Audiobook's reason was too strong. The legendary demon was speechless. All right, with your bloodline, even if you fail the Holy Sun trial, you'll still have a chance to shine. Forget it, that's it. The legendary demon waved his hand at Audiobook. Go, go. Yes. Audiobook kept the storage pouch and turned to leave the Tower of Bones. 10,000 army tokens is just a basic allocation. Even if I only have one guard, they still gave me 10,000 army tokens. Audiobook weighed the storage pouch in his hand and smiled. Seems like these army tokens can be used for some tricks. Audiobook returned to the encampment. Yes, encampment. Every Holy Sun was given an encampment to station their troops. As a Holy Sun, Audiobook naturally enjoyed the treatment of an encampment. Unfortunately, the encampment was empty. There was only Zaire and Nightmare Beast. How could it be so shabby? Your Highness Nefarian, Zaire looked at the troops stationed around him and compared them to his own body. His knees went weak. During the Holy Sun trial, each Holy Sun's troops would fight. His Highness Nefarian's troops. I'm the only one. You want me to fight so many alone? Zaire said, I can't do that. I'm very strong, but my troops are the weakest. They're not to be trifled with, nor are they a threat. This way, won't the Holy Sun trial be very safe? Audiobook knew what Zaire was worried about. If it was a normal Holy Sun trial, it would be too difficult for Zaire to fight the troops of the other Holy Suns. Your Highness is wise. Although Zaire was helpless about the fact that he had the weakest troops, he heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Ajuin's words. At least, he wouldn't die too miserably. Zaire, do you have any cloth or leather? Not only were there no troops in the encampment, there wasn't even a tent. Other than riding on the nightmare beast, Ajuin could only sit on the ground. Cloth or leather? I don't have any. As a wandering demon, Zaire's most valuable asset was the nightmare beast. Now that the nightmare beast was Ajuin's personal mount, he had nothing. Forget it. I'll do it myself. Ajuin had no choice but to use his true soul imprint to make a black cloth and a flagpole from the system's vault. Taking out the flagpole and hanging the black cloth, Ajuin took out a pen and ink and started writing on the black cloth. Your Highness, are you making a war flag? The Great Nefarian War Flag. I'm looking forward to it. Before Zaire could finish his sentence, Ajuin had already raised the flag. Seeing the demonic words written on the black cloth, Zaire was dumbfounded. Selling military tags. Hurry up if you want to buy. Is His Highness Nefarian doing business? He wants to sell military tags? Your Highness, you're a great pure-blooded royalty. You're the pure-blooded descendant of the King of Terror. Isn't this too embarrassing? Nefarian is selling military tags? He's too creative. That works too. You can sell military tags? Every holy son only thinks that they don't have enough tags. Who has one for sale? This Nefarian is really interesting. Chapter 1448. Lord Gondos, Nefarian's actions are too much, aren't they? Inside the Tower of Bones, a demon pointed at the by now signboard erected in Ajuin's base with a strange expression. Yes, he must be severely punished. He is the Holy Son, the pure-blooded descendant of the King of Trepidation. He is not one of those shameless dimensional merchants. His actions are disrespectful to the King of Trepidation. Another demon pointed at Ajuin's banner and roared with righteous indignation. Gondos, I suggest that he be disqualified for being the Holy Son and be arrested for punishment. Yes, Lord Flame of Trepidation is right. Nefarian is blaspheming the holy bloodline. He must be severely punished. A few demons at the side also chimed in. What an interesting fellow. Gondos glanced at Ajuin's camp and shook his head with a smile. Then, he turned to look at Flame of Trepidation. Leonard, I heard that Nefarian rejected the recruitment of the Holy Fire Lake. Was your suggestion just now a form of revenge? Gondos, what do you mean? I'm just stating the facts. I have no selfish motives. Nefarian's actions are too much. He must be severely punished. Flame of Trepidation. Leonard looked righteous, as if he really did not have any selfish motives. Enough. Gondos waved his hand. His Majesty never said that the military tags of the Holy Sun trial cannot be sold. Since he didn't say that, what's wrong with Nefarian selling them? Is there a need for His Majesty to say that? Leonard roared, and sparks flew out of his nostrils. Gondos, you're not a pure-blooded royal. You don't know the dignity and honor of a pure-blooded royal. Therefore, you don't know the seriousness of this issue. This is the dignity of a pure-blooded royal. A bastard like you has no right to interfere. Hearing the word bastard, Gando's blood-red eyes burst into flames. Reynold, are you provoking me? What gave you the courage to do so? The pitch-black spirit of trepidation surged from Gando's body. It was as if the sky was collapsing and the earth was collapsing. Gondos, The enormous pressure made Leonard lose his balance and kneel on the ground with a plop, unable to raise his head. As a holy, pure-blood royal, Reynold, who came from the Holy Fire Lake family and had the great title of Flame of Fear, couldn't resist at all in front of the mixed-blood Gondos. This made Reynold extremely embarrassed. Here. Gondos stared at Reynold coldly. Reynold, you're not qualified to be arrogant in front of me. Kiki. Reynold's bones creaked under Gando's pressure, and he couldn't resist at all. Scram! With a slap, Gondos sent Reynold flying. With a loud bang, Reynold crashed into the wall. Gondos, you bastard. You will pay for your rudeness. Leonard turned, and walked. Gandos, Teasy, a demon beside Gondos, looked at Gondos worriedly as he watched Reynold leave with hatred in his eyes. It's all right. Gondos waved his hand expressionlessly. In fact, Gondos, who came from a lowly background, had been bullied and humiliated countless times. Even with his current status, he was still ostracized and rejected by the pure-blooded royals. His heart was filled with rage. Gondos could empathize with the lowly, holy son, Audouin. He did not want Nefarian to be bullied by Leonard. Nefarian, I hope your appearance can change all of this. Nefarian had a pure bloodline and a bright future. He also came from a lowly background and offended the holy fire lake. He would not associate himself with the pure-blooded royals. Gondos had high hopes for Nefarian. Then, what was Nefarian, the one that Gondos had high hopes for, doing? 1,000 trepidation magic stones for a military badge. I'm not selling anything less. No money? Scram. Why buy a military badge if you don't have money? Your mother is calling you home for dinner. 500 succubus maids? I don't like sluts. I'm not selling. In Audouin's shabby camp that did not even have a stool, it was already crowded. With 100,000 holy sons participating in the holy son trial, who would not want their subordinates to be stronger? If they bought a military badge, they would be able to bring in more subordinates. Who would let go of such an opportunity? Audouin, who had turned into a profiteer, naturally knew how to take advantage of the situation. This was a one-time deal. If he did not seize this opportunity to make a fortune, where else would he find such a good opportunity in the future? What? One legendary equipment for 100 military badges? Why don't you just rob someone? Ahem. I'm an honest merchant who does business legally. Why would I rob someone? Plus, robbing someone is not as profitable as selling military badges. Audouin smiled. One legendary equipment for 100 military badges. Do you want to buy it? If you don't, the price will increase again. The opportunity is right in front of you. Don't miss it. Huff. Huff. The holy son was so angry that his face turned red. He took out a huge rune sword that was condensed with endless ice and stabbed it in front of Audouin. I'll buy it. Thank you for your patronage. Audouin threw out 100 military cards and pointed at the giant ice sword. Zaire, take the money. He waved his hand at Zaire. Nefarian, give me all your military badges. I come from the great Eye of Destruction family. Give me your military badges, and you will gain the friendship of the Eye of Destruction. Don't talk to me about family, and don't talk to me about friendship. Audouin waved his hand and interrupted the holy son. Business is business. Only talk about money, not friendship. Give me the money. If you have money, you have military badges. I'm running a small business, and I don't accept credit. Nefarian, you want to reject the friendship of the Eye of Destruction? You have to think carefully. Scram. If you don't have money, you can play. Audouin roared and waved his hand at the holy son of the Eye of Destruction. Get out. Next. Family was useless. Friendship was useless. Even threats were useless. The honest merchant Audouin only talked about money, not friendship. 100,000 holy sons. Everyone wanted military badges to increase their power. At this time, no matter what family he was from, it was useless. If you don't buy, others will. Not long after, other than the one reserved for Zaire, all of Audouin's 10,000 military tags were sold out. Your Highness, we are rich. The storage bag was full of magic stones of fear, and there were dozens of legendary equipment on the ground. Zaire was so excited that his tail trembled when he saw the shiny equipment. Our Jia Laowu has never seen so much money before. Choose a set of equipment and put the rest in the storage bag. Audouin waved his hand as if he regarded money as dirt. He no longer looked like a profiteer. Chapter 1449. Nefarian, this fellow, Gondos, who had been paying attention to Audouin's military tags, shook his head with a smile when he saw Audouin obtain countless magic stones and a huge pile of legendary equipment. My lord, Nefarian has offended almost all the pureblood families. Gando's adjutant glanced at Audouin's camp and shook his head with a bitter smile. although he has earned quite a bit, but these things might not be kept. Demons did not have the concept of personal property cannot be infringed upon. It belonged to whoever snatched it. This was the demon's personal property protection law. Nefarian had used the military tags to extort a huge sum of money, earning tens of legendary equipment and countless terror magic stones. With so much wealth, there would definitely be many who would be interested. Even a legendary demon would not mind being a bandit. Moreover, Nefarian had offended all the saints in the sales event just now. The saints who had bought military tags would definitely hate Nefarian for being extorted by Audiobook. Those who had not bought military tags would also hate Audiobook for increasing the strength of others. Therefore, although Audiobook had earned a lot, the repercussions were also huge. After the saints' trial ended, Audiobook would probably not be able to move an inch. Offending all the saints? That's good. Gondo smiled, very satisfied with Nefarian's performance. Offending all the saints was equivalent to offending all the pureblood royals. This way, the pureblood Nefarian would be on the opposite side of the pureblood royals. From now on, he would definitely be on the same side as Gondos. I'll go meet this fellow. Gondos stepped out of the bone tower and flew into the air, landing in front of Audiobook. You are Lord Gondos. Zaire, who was happily splitting the loot, saw Gondos and quickly knelt on the ground in fright. Greetings, Lord Gondos. Audiobook looked at the male demon who had the characteristics of a terror demon and the colorful hair of a Glabrizu and smiled as he bowed. However, Audiobook was laughing inwardly. As expected, my act of cutting myself off from the pure-blood royals has attracted attention. Audiobook seemed to be fooling around by selling military tokens to earn money, but in fact, it was also to fish. According to Audiobook's understanding, no world or country could be peaceful without any internal conflicts. The pure-blooded royal family had a high status and would definitely bully the other races to occupy more resources. In this way, there would definitely be factions hostile to the pure-blooded royal family. Audiobook was never tired of causing trouble for the Dreadlord. Nefarian, I know you come from a humble background and you need money. But by doing so, you've already offended all the pure-blood families. You are a pure-blooded member of the Royal Clan of Terror. If you go against a pure-blooded family, it will be detrimental to your future growth. Gondos glanced at Audiobook and advised him. It seemed to be a kind reminder. In fact, this was a test. He was testing Audiobook's position. Although my bloodline comes from a pure-blooded royal family, I am just a wandering demon. I'm not the same type of person as those high and mighty royal families. In any case, they were going to oppose each other sooner or later. If they offended him, then so be it. I'm not afraid of them. Of course, Audiobook knew that Gondos was testing his stance, so he didn't hesitate to reveal his stance. Opposing the pure-blooded royal family. This was Audiobook's position. Sigh. Gondos sighed with sympathy. You've offended too many people and gained too much. There will be danger during the Holy Sun trial. After the Holy Sun trial, you will be in even more danger. Taking out a scroll and handing it to Audiobook, Gondos continued. This is a location transfer scroll. If you encounter any danger, tear this scroll, and I will come and help you. Thank you, Lord Gondos. Audiobook took the scroll with a puzzled look on his face. Lord Gondos, why are you helping me? Protecting the pure-blooded Holy Sun is the duty given to me by the Dreadlord. Moreover, your personality is very similar to mine. We're the same kind of people. Gondos nodded with a smile and patted Audiobook's shoulder. Don't worry, even the pure-blooded families do not dare to do as they wish. Thank you, Lord. Audiobook knew that he had been recruited into Gondos' team. Go and participate in the Holy Sun trial. Gondos waved at Audiobook and left Audiobook's base. Lord Gondos has seen Nefarian? This is troublesome. We won't be able to kill Nefarian under Lord Gondos' watch. He's lucky. He can't do anything during the Holy Sun trial. What's there to be afraid of? After the Saint Sun trial ends, only death awaits him. Gondos had already sent out a clear signal when he arrived at Audiobook's base. This caused many holy sons who were ready to make a move to stop. Originally, these holy sons who came from noble families were very jealous of Audouin's extortion. They were also very jealous of Audouin's wealth, and had even thought of sending bandits to steal and assassinate him. Now that Gondos had left, there was no way to do anything. All right, at least you helped me solve a small problem. Audouin naturally knew that some people were up to no good. Although he did not care much, it was good to avoid some trouble. At least he did not have to waste his energy. Although you're using me and trying to rope me in, I still appreciate your kindness. So, I'll let you become an underground party member and not directly cause a vigorous revolution. The hidden battlefront also needed experienced revolutionary soldiers. Revolutionaries who infiltrated the enemy were more beneficial to the revolutionary cause. So, Audouin took out a legendary accessory, a pendant carved from a demon's fang, and handed it to Zaire. Zaire, go to the Tower of Bones and give this to Lord Gondos. Give it to Lord Gondos? Your Highness, is it appropriate for me to give it to him directly? Gondos was the host of the Holy Sun trial. As a Holy Sun, Audouin giving a gift to Gondos in front of everyone, wasn't this obviously bribing the examiner? Even if he wanted to give it, he could only do it secretly. Lord Gondos will definitely not accept it. It's just for show. It's just to show my respect. After all, the demon's fang pendant was just a bait. As long as Zaire gave it to Gondos, he could turn Gondos into an underground party member. All right. Zaire shook his head helplessly, took the accessory, and walked towards the Tower of Bones. This is a gift for Nefarian? Gondos looked at the legendary accessory and shook his head with a smile. Nefarian is such a troublemaker. Take it back. Gondos waved his hand at Zaire and shook his head helplessly. Nefarian shouldn't be an idiot, right? Why would he do something so stupid? Giving a gift to the examiner. He was really something. Asterisk boom. Asterisk just as Gondos waved his hand to dismiss Zaire, an explosion sounded in his mind. Flames raged in his mind, and a bright red flag rose high and fluttered in the wind. An impassioned song echoed in his mind. International, it will come true. Chapter 1450. The seed has been planted. The moment Gondos obtained the opportunity, Audouin knew that his chess piece had been set. The rest is up to the Holy Sun's trial in the Whitebone Wasteland. Audouin looked at the Whitebone Wasteland and saw a ball of red flames burning in the White Wasteland. No one paid attention to this ball of fire, but Audouin knew that this ball of fire would set the wasteland ablaze. It's time. All holy sons, enter the Whitebone Wasteland and begin the trial. On the morning of the third day, Gondos appeared at the entrance of the Whitebone Wasteland. The Whitebone Wasteland looked ordinary, but it had been isolated by the Dread Fiend King's spell formation and turned into a trial space. The entrance to the wasteland was a huge white bone gate. The gate seemed to be made of countless bones, and it had a pale white color and gave off an eerie chill. White bone gate open. Gondos stood in front of the white bone gate, and a vast amount of demonic energy rushed out of his hands and poured into the white bone gate. Kaboom! The tightly shut white gate slowly opened, and a terrifying, murderous aura surged out like a raging tide. The cold air made one's heart tremble. All holy sons, enter the trial now. Gondos turned around and roared. Yes, the various saints led their armies and stepped into the bone door, entering the trial grounds. Is it like an arena? Interesting. Audouin swept his gaze over and discovered that this bone wasteland training ground was similar to an arena. All the teams of saints were brought into this huge arena, where they would fight and kill each other to determine the final victor. Zaire, give it to us. Audouin patted the nightmare beast and waved his hand at Zaire. Yes, your highness. Zaire, who was fully equipped and armed to the teeth, stepped into the white bone gate valiantly. Kaboom! The world spun as if they had fallen into a whirlpool. Audouin and Zaire were sucked into this violent spatial vortex. The demon's teleportation circle is too crude. Audouin shook his head gloomily and looked around. Everything in front of him was grayish-white, and as far as his eyes could see, there were piles of white bones, the remains of countless demons after their deaths. The training field in the White Bone Wasteland was extremely huge. Even though there were 100,000 saints and countless demons that entered the White Bone Wasteland, they all split up and didn't crowd together. Although the Holy Sun Trial is a competition between the Holy Sons, in reality, the ones who die are the demon soldiers under their command. Audouin smiled and shook his head. Of course, he definitely wouldn't sympathize with these demons. But these expendable demon troops would definitely not be willing to die here, right? Survival was the instinct of any living creature. If they didn't have a chance to resist, they could only accept reality helplessly. But what if there was a chance to fight back? Audouin looked at the red flame in the distance and smiled. Zaire, head in that direction. Audouin pointed in the direction of the red flame. Yes. Zaire raised an ice-rune sword and opened up a path in front of him. Audouin sat on the back of the nightmare beast with his eyes closed. He leisurely dozed off, as though he didn't care about the Holy Sun Trial. Of course, he didn't care about the Holy Sun Trial in the first place. He was only here to cause trouble. Rumble. When Audouin and his group passed through a cliff of white bones, they suddenly heard a loud rumbling sound coming from ahead. Enemy. Your Highness, be careful. Zaire raised his rune sword and looked ahead vigilantly. His eyes looked around, searching for the enemy's location. However, other than the piles of white bones, he didn't see any living creatures. Strange. Why can't I see any enemies? Zaire's brows furrowed tightly as he scanned his surroundings. Just a pile of bones. Audouin, who was dozing off with his eyes closed, didn't even bat an eyelid. He directly ordered Zaire to continue forward. Bones! The corner of Zaire's eye twitched as he thought of a possibility. The White Bone Wasteland was filled with the aura of death. Could it be Rumble? Broken bones flew everywhere, and the mountain of bones collapsed, revealing a group of dead spirits. This was a group of skeletons, but they were the skeletons of demons. Bones of the dead spirits. Your Highness, be careful. Zaire took a deep breath and raised his rune sword in front of Audouin. He looked like he was going to protect him with his life. With so many white bones piled up in the abyss of fear, it would be strange if they didn't turn into dead spirits. Audouin waved his hand nonchalantly. Go. Hurry up and get rid of them. Yes, Your Highness. Zaire will pave the way for Your Highness' advancement. With a roar, Zaire raised his rune greatsword and charged into the sea of skeletons in front of him. Cleave. After crashing into the pile of skeletons, Zaire let out a roar and swung his rune sword. With a full set of legendary equipment in hand, Zaire's strength increased exponentially. With a sweep of his sword, the skeletons fell to the ground. Ha 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 ha! You can't even withstand a single blow. Zaire rampaged through the skeletons, slaughtering everything in his path. Not a single one of the skeletons could withstand a single blow from him. Such powerful combat strength boosted Zaire's confidence. He felt that he could kill his way through the sky. A brain is a good thing. Too bad you don't have one. Audouin rolled his eyes and glanced ahead. He curled his lips and said, You only care about slashing the skeletons. Why don't you look around? Around, Zaire, who was in the midst of killing, raised his head and scanned his surroundings. Then his entire body shuddered. Skeletons. There were skeletons everywhere. Endless skeletons. There was an endless sea of skeletons all around. So many. How long do I have to kill all of them? Zaire was dumbfounded. At the same time, all the saints in the White Bone Wasteland encountered these skeletons. A huge battle broke out. Under the command of the Holy Sun, the demon army charged forward and fought endlessly. This is the first test of the saints' trial. Undead skeletons. At the entrance of the White Bone Wasteland, a huge screen appeared above the White Bone Tower. It showed the various teams that had entered the White Bone Wasteland. Things like the undead skeletons are just a little more in number. They're just for practice with the Holy Sons. They're not a threat at all. Eh, look, Nefarian. Ha, he doesn't have an army. He only has one guard. This time, he is in big trouble. It's true. Nefarian is surrounded by undead skeletons. Ha, he won't be the first saint to be eliminated by undead skeletons, right? The first saint to be eliminated by undead skeletons? Ha ha ha. This is too funny. Outside the White Bone Tower, countless demons watching the saint's trial laughed when they saw Audouin being surrounded by undead skeletons and Zaire struggling to kill them. Chapter 1451. This is a tragedy caused by a lowly background. Reynolds sneered. Even if your bloodline is pure, without the support of your family, you will never succeed. Reynolds was very happy about Audouin's predicament. How dare you reject the friendship of the Holy Flame family? How dare you not know how to appreciate kindness? This is your outcome. The Holy Son who was eliminated by the undead skeletons, Nefarian, you will become the laughing stock of the entire abyss of fear. However, Reynolds' laughter had just started, but he could no longer laugh. On the screen, Audouin, who was dozing off on the back of the nightmare beast, seemed to be impatient as he waved his hand in front of him. Kaboom! An earth-shattering flame swept out like a tidal wave. Audouin's surroundings had turned into a sea of fire. Under the impact of this raging flame, all the undead spirits and skeletons in the surroundings were instantly burned to ashes, turning into ashes on the ground. Reynolds looked at the scene on the screen and was stunned. Destructive flames? Wasn't this the talent of the Holy Flame family? How was Nefarian able to unleash such a powerful attack? The pure-blooded royal family inherited the power of the King of Trepidation, but every family awakened different powers. The Holy Flame family awakened the power of the King of Trepidation's destructive demon flames. The halo of fear that Nefarian displayed earlier was obviously the bloodline talent of the Heart of Fear family. Now, he actually displayed the destructive demon flames talent. A bloodline descendant actually awakened two powers of the King of Trepidation. How is this possible? In a white bone wasteland, Zaire looked at Audouin in a daze. Your Highness, your power is really too strong. They're just a bunch of skeletons, nothing much. Audouin waved his hand with a smile on his face, looking unfathomable. In fact, Audouin wasn't as terrifying as others thought. The biggest weakness of the undead skeletons was their soul. Audouin was a warlock of Azeroth. His soul flame could ignite the souls of all the skeletons. How could it not die? As he advanced, he would throw a soul flame at any undead skeletons that he encountered. In Audouin's path, he left a trail of ashes. Lord of Ashes, Lord of Ashes. Seeing this scene, the Abyss Devils outside the Whitebone Wasteland were all dumbfounded and screamed in shock. The Lord of Ashes was a bloodline of a higher level than the Flame of Destruction. This was the first-generation descendant of the King of Trepidation, the son of Origin Blood. Nefarian was the son of the King of Trepidation. Recalling the King of Trepidation's magnificent feat of defeating countless female demons, everyone felt that this possibility was very high. Leonard's face was filled with fear and helplessness. Your Highness Nefarian, why didn't you say anything about your background? Isn't this too much of a scam? Send a message to the Holy Son. You must not provoke Nefarian. The demons from the various families hurriedly sent messages to their holy sons, telling them not to provoke Nefarian. Otherwise, their deaths would be in vain. Nefarian is the son of the Origin Blood, the son of the King of Fear, His Royal Highness? Are you kidding me? When the group of saints received this news, they were completely dumbfounded, and all of them blurted out, "Bullsh *T. You're already a prince. Why are you still participating in the Holy Son trial? Moreover, you have such a powerful background, yet you're still pretending to be poor. Isn't this a scam? A bunch of shrimps are competing in strength, and you, a giant lobster, are here to participate. This is too much of a bully. Your Highness, there are two armies fighting in front. After crossing a huge mountain of bones, Auduin and the rest had just turned around the foot of the mountain when they saw two armies of demons fighting in the white bone wasteland in front of them. Your Highness, that's the Eye of Destruction family and the Wings of Darkness family fighting. They're very powerful. What should we do? Should we take a detour? Seeing the two armies of high-level demons fighting in front of them, Zair's legs turned to jelly again. The strength of these two top families was seriously too powerful. Even with a full set of legendary equipment, Zaire could not defeat any demon soldier in the two armies. Detour? Why should we take a detour? Just go straight. Get them to make way for me. Auduin looked at the battlefield in front of him and pursed his lips, his face full of disdain. A bunch of motley crew. My androgynous warriors are much stronger than them. Androgynous warriors? What's that? Zaire was stunned. His Highness Nefarian had such a powerful army under his command. Androgynous warriors. What kind of profession was that? It sounded very powerful. Nothing. Auduin waved his hand and pointed to the front. Open a path. Yes. Zaire was completely superstitious towards Auduin's power. If Auduin said that they were a bunch of motley crew, then they were definitely a bunch of motley crew. One had to know that Auduin's Howl of Terror had defeated the entire Nightmare Knights. His aura of terror had suppressed dozens of holy suns. His Highness Nefarian has arrived. Those in front, make way. Zaire raised his rune sword and roared at the battlefield in front of him. Nefarian? Make way. The two holy sons who were engaged in a fierce battle heard Zaire's roar and were shocked. They quickly turned their heads to look. A guard, a nightmare horse, and a figure in a black robe who was sitting on the back of the nightmare horse, dozing off. This was Nefarian. Damn it. The two holy sons were furious, but they remembered the message from their families and remembered Nefarian's terrifying identity. They did not have the courage to resist. Stop fighting. Retreat. 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 Make way. The two armies that were engaged in a bloody battle had no choice but to stop and retreat in front of Auduin. You're all so obedient? I'm here to pick a fight. You guys are so obedient that I can't find an excuse to get angry. Auduin's face was full of surprise and also felt very depressed. My reputation is already so terrifying. I haven't done anything big, right? Shaking his head, Auduin's eyes flashed with a hint of mockery. As the saying goes, if you want to condemn someone, you can easily find a pretext. Do you think I won't be able to find an excuse to cause trouble for you? You think I won't mess with you just because you've made way? You're too naive. Sitting on the back of the nightmare horse, Auduin advanced. Under the watchful eyes of the evil demons from both sides, he slowly stepped across the bloody battlefield. Smack! The nightmare horse's hooves stepped into a pit, and blood splattered onto Auduin's boots. Bastards! You're all courting death. Auduin was enraged. You lowly be Astrostards. How dare you dirty my boots? You're all courting death. Kaboom! An earth-shattering divine light of terror shot into the sky, shaking heaven and earth as it enveloped the surroundings. The abyss devils on both sides of the battle screamed and fell to the ground, trembling under the immense pressure of fear. His Highness Nefarian is really too powerful. The spectating evil demons were speechless. Wasn't this too much of a bully? Chapter 1452. Lord Gondos, do you think we should invite Prince Nefarian out? The demons in charge of organizing the Son of Saint's trial were all helpless. Nefarian was obviously the son of the King of Trepidation. As the son of the Origin Blood, it was too much of a bully to compete with these descendants who were many generations apart. Prince Nefarian did not need to go through the so-called Son of Saint's trial to prove himself. University students must be banned from the kindergarten math competition. We can only ask His Majesty for instructions. Gondos was also speechless. He had thought that Nefarian was a revolutionary comrade, but it turned out to be a counter-revolutionary leader. How could he accept this? Yes, this is important. Report to His Majesty immediately. His Majesty would definitely be very happy with a new son of the origin blood. All right, Gondos took out a secret rune and activated it to report Nefarian's situation to the Dreadlord. I got it. The Dreadlord nodded. After playing for so long, it's time to go home. I'll bring him back. Whitebone Wilderness. Ajuin used the divine rays of terror to defeat 2 teams, and then, happily, snatched the spoils of war. The decoration on your fangs is actually a magical equipment? That's great. Ajuin mentioned the son of Dark Wings and saw that there was a golden ring on the son of Dark Wings' demon fawn. Moreover, it was a magical equipment. He was instantly interested. I'll take it off immediately. The son of Dark Wings admitted defeat and hurriedly reached out to remove the golden ring on his fawn. No need to go through so much trouble. Ajuin smiled and took the rune sword from Zaire. Don't worry, it'll be quick. It won't hurt at all. No, as the son of Dark Wings screamed. Ajuin chopped off the son of Dark Wings' demon fawn. Zaire, put away. You don't know the cost of living until you're in charge. We're so poor that we're scared. Now that we have a chance to get rich, we can't let it go. You have to be diligent and thrifty, understand? When you collect the spoils of war, you have to be careful. After tossing the broken fawn to Zaire, Ajuin tossed the holy son of Dark Wings away. Then, he turned around and went to look for more loot. I'll do it myself. The fate of the Dark Wings' holy son made the eyes of destruction, holy son, tremble all over. He quickly took off the ornaments on the demon horns and respectfully handed them to Ajuin, afraid that Ajuin would cut off his horns. Yes, not bad. Ajuin's was. I like smart people like you the most. Yes, as long as your highness. The holy son of the eyes of destruction wanted to cry. Nefarian. Stop playing, Nefarian. It's time to go home. At this time, a black cloud condensed in midair, revealing the figure of a huge demon. Although the demon had restrained his power, the vast and majestic power aura was still boundless, as if it was an endless void. Your Majesty? Your Highness, King of Trepidation. When the surrounding evil demons saw this huge figure, they were so scared that their bodies trembled. They hurriedly knelt on the ground and kowtowed respectfully. Your Highness? King of Trepidation? Zaire was scared out of his wits. He fell to the ground, not even daring to breathe. King of Trepidation? You're asking me to go home? I don't even know where my home is. Why should I go home? Ajuin was shocked, but he was laughing in his heart. As expected, the King of Trepidation has taken the bait. Pretending to be a prince and finding the location of the Dreadlord's real body, then His Highness Holy Victor would be able to lead a dungeon team to clear the Palace of Fear dungeon. You will see your home soon. The King of Trepidation smiled and grabbed Ajuin. Let's go. Stop playing. With a dark glow, the King of Trepidation grabbed Ajuin and disappeared. Your Highness Nefarian, don't leave me behind. Zaire cried out in panic, but Nefarian was nowhere to be found. It's over. I've stolen so many things, and now His Highness is not here. The enemy is right in front of me. What should I do? Looking at the demons surrounding him, Zaire's legs turned to jelly and he knelt on the ground. Spare me. I'm Nefarian's guard. You can't kill me. Lord Zaire, you misunderstand. You're Nefarian's guard. How we dare to disrespect you? Zaire was shocked to find that the demons around him were all smiling at him. There was no revenge like he had imagined. Nefarian's name was so useful. It seemed like he had struck gold. Zaire laughed hysterically. This is my palace, and it's also your home. In the main hall of the Palace of Trepidation, a demon of trepidation, who was wearing a luxurious robe and a dark gold crown, sat on the throne and smiled at Ajuin. Nefarian, your appearance has given me a pleasant surprise. For countless years, I've given birth to countless descendants, but none of them have such a pure bloodline as yours. So, the demon of trepidation smiled as he stood up and opened his arms. A vast amount of energy surged. So, you are my successor. My kingdom, my people, my everything is yours. Is that so? Ajuin's face was filled with ecstasy, but in fact, he was cursing in his heart. Who are you trying to fool? You want to trick me with such a brainless lie? The successor of the demon of trepidation sounded like a noble and great identity. In fact, who was the demon of trepidation? He was equivalent to one of the strongest lords of the abyss with a level 19 divinity. For such a person, immortality was already a basic part of him. If there were no accidents, the demon of trepidation would not die until the end of the world. Naturally, the successor would never have the possibility of inheriting his legacy. A demon of trepidation's promise. Back in Amber City, Victor's younger brother, Camille, used his life and soul to prove the demon of trepidation's integrity. Ajuin's thoughts turned, and he immediately thought that my disguise as Nefarian, the so-called son of the origin blood, would probably be of great value to the demon of trepidation. In an instant, Ajuin thought of uses such as abyss sacrifice, reincarnation body, death substitute, and so on. Yes, the demon of trepidation wanted to leave the abyss and become a true immortal god. Then, to leave the abyss, Nefarian, who had the same bloodline as him, was the best death substitute, the best abyss sacrifice. Using Nefarian's body as a death substitute, the demon of trepidation would be able to leave the abyss and become a true god of trepidation. This was the best use of the successor. As expected, this fits the habits of demons. Since you want to trick me, then don't blame me for tricking you. Ajuin sneered in his heart. Victor, this evil is worth fighting. Chapter 1453. After Ajuin returned home, there was a major change in the son of Saint Trial. Rebellion. It was an unprecedented rebellion. The armies under the sons of saints actually all rebelled. The rebels, who were burning with crimson flames, killed all the sons of saints and fought their way out of the white bone wasteland. It was as if the crimson flames had a unique magic power. Most of the demons who came into contact with the crimson flames joined the rebel army. Outside the white bone wasteland, all the demons who were watching the son of Saint Trial, except for those who came from pure blood families, joined the rebel army. The flame of revolution Sanchez Embark. The crimson flames that covered the sky burned the entire sky. Sanchez, who was smashed into pieces by the Fear Fiend King, was reborn in the flames. He led a huge army and swept in all directions. With 100,000 sons of saints participating in the trial, each son of saint had 10,000 soldiers under him. This was 1 billion demons. As this huge army swept in all directions and conquered the world, the rebel army's formation snowballed rapidly. The situation has deteriorated to this extent. The Fear Fiend King was focused on figuring out how to use Nefarian, a descendant of the origin blood, as a scapegoat for him to escape from the abyss. He had only been in seclusion for 3 days when he was called out by his panicked subordinates. After receiving the news, the Fear Fiend King discovered that the rebel army had conquered 1/3 of the abyss of fear. The number of rebel army troops had already increased to tens of billions. Facing this situation, the Fear Fiend King was stunned for a long time. What was going on? After 3 days of seclusion, how did the world become so different? In just 3 days, the rebel army had managed to conquer such a huge territory, and they had even grown to such an extent. This was simply unimaginable. Gather the army and attack. Exterminate those worms. The Fear Fiend King's furious roar shook the entire Fear City. The 10 demon generals under him, hundreds of millions of soldiers, and the various families of the Fear Royal family immediately gathered a huge army under the command of the Fear Fiend King and started to conquer the rebels. That Sanchez's strength is only at the legendary level. With the 10 demon generals leading the army, they will definitely be able to quell the rebellion quickly. After the Dread Demon King arranged the crusade against the rebels' mission, he didn't care about the rebels anymore. To the Dread Fiend King, territory, clansmen, and even descendants were secondary. Currently, The most important thing for the Dreadlord was to find a way to leave the abyss and become a true god. Nefarian, the son of Origin Blood, had the exact same bloodline as the Dreadlord. This was the greatest gift that fate had bestowed upon the Dreadlord. When the Dreadlord escaped from the abyss and suffered the backlash of the abyss, Nefarian, as a scapegoat, would be able to take the backlash in place of the Dreadlord. Nefarian, come with me. Returning to the Dread Palace, the Dread Demon King found Audiobook. My child, you have the same bloodline as me. You will inherit my authority and my power. Come, I will share my power with you. Dread Demon King looked at Audiobook with eyes full of love, as if he was a kind father. Is the Fear Fiend King going to make his move? When Audiobook heard this, he immediately understood that Dread Fiend King was about to take action. This made Audiobook sneer inwardly. Thank you for your gift. You are too generous. Audiobook, with a face full of joy, bowed to the Fear Fiend King, looking both excited and emotional. This is what you deserve. The Fear Fiend King was also very excited. With this guy as a scapegoat, I can leave the abyss and become a true god. There is still a ceremony. Come with me. The Fear Fiend King brought Audiobook out of the room and arrived at a huge altar under the palace. Nefarian, stand on the altar. I will cast a spell to form a symbiotic contract with you. From now on, you will share my authority, my power, and everything about me. Pointing at the altar, the Fear Fiend King smiled at Audiobook. Symbiotic contract? Audiobook looked at the huge blood-red altar in front of him. There were densely packed runes carved on the altar. Streams of blood filled with immense power flowed on the runes. These were the runes carved by the Fear Fiend King with his own blood. Symbiotic contract? But why do I see sacrificial prayer and sacrificial prayer on this spell formation? Pointing at the runes on the altar, Audiobook glanced at the Fear Fiend King with a smile that did not look like a smile. There was a hint of mockery in his eyes. What a surprise. You can actually recognize the sacrificial prayer and sacrificial prayer. The Fear Fiend King was stunned for a moment before smiling again. Since you can tell, I won't hide it from you. Nefarian, this is your fate. The value of your existence is to be my sacrifice and bear the backlash from the abyss law for me. Fate? I don't believe in fate. The goddess of fate can't control me. A vast amount of power surged from Audiobook's body and shook the underground altar violently. Ha! Are you planning to resist? The Fear Fiend King smiled and shook his head. He looked at Audiobook with pity. My son, your bloodline comes from me. All your power comes from me. In front of me, you have no right to resist at all. With a wave of his hand, the resonance from the bloodline surged out and enveloped Audiobook. All the demons of the Terror royal family originated from the Fear Fiend King. Their power also originated from the Fear Fiend King. The power that originated from the bloodline would definitely be restricted by the bloodline. In front of the Fear Fiend King, the source of the bloodline, all the power that originated from the bloodline was meaningless. Bloodline? How interesting. I have no bloodline with you. Moreover, someone like you dares to call me son? With a loud boom, Audiobook, who was imprisoned by the bloodline power, was covered in pitch-black flames. A pitch-black giant axe appeared in his hand. A pair of black dragon wings stretched out behind Audiobook's back. The dark flames surged and shook the heavens and earth. Audiobook, wings of death, Audiobook. Seeing Audiobook's true form, the Fear Fiend King was shocked. You're the one who impersonated Nefarian? You can impersonate my bloodline? How is this possible? Why is it impossible? Isn't it just a gene clone? How simple is it? Oh, you don't know what a gene is, and you don't know what a clone is. That's why you should read more books. If you don't read enough, you'll be tricked easily, child. Audiobook looked at the Fear Fiend King mockingly and shook his head in disdain. You're courting death. The Fear Fiend King roared furiously. Wings of death, you're just a beginner Abyssal Lord, and I'm already an advanced Abyssal Lord. What gave you the courage to trespass into my territory? The fierce spiritual energy surged into the sky and swept out like a raging tide. Chapter 1454. What gave him the courage to do so? Of course, it's the holy light. When the Dreadfiend King went berserk and unleashed the overwhelming divine light of terror, a bright holy light shone behind the Dreadfiend King. The holy light swept out. It was brilliant, holy, and majestic, illuminating the entire underground space like a divine kingdom. Holy light. The power of the holy light was engraved in the Dreadfiend King's heart. Back in Amber City, the Dreadfiend King who wanted to reach out to the main plane was smashed in the head by the holy light. One of his clones was destroyed, and the tentacles that the Dreadfiend King extended to the main plane were chopped off. The Dreadfiend King's hatred for the holy light was indescribable. Didn't I just play a blood sacrifice? Didn't I just cause trouble in the main plane? Isn't it normal for demons to harm the human world? I have no enmity with the holy light. Is there a need to be so ruthless? Even when my clones died, I've been mocked by the demon lords for many years. Holy light emissary Victor, you damn quack! How dare you step into the abyss? How dare you trespass into my territory? You're courting death. The Dreadfiend King turned his head and glanced at Victor. The anger in his heart erupted like a volcano. With just the two of you? With just the two of you? How dare you offend the great Dreadfiend King? Wail in endless fear. Worms. Amid the furious roar, the Dreadfiend King stomped his foot heavily on the ground, and a huge amount of spiritual aura of terror rushed up. Heaven and earth shook. The entire abyss of terror was resonating. This was the authority of the Abyss Lord. This was the power given by the Abyss Law. It was equivalent to divine power. A pitch-black domain of terror crushed the holy light and shrouded the entire underground space. The huge power of the law of terror directly shook the soul and gave all living beings fear from the soul. However, this was meaningless. Whether it was the holy light emissary Victor or the wings of Death Audiobook, they were essentially Li Yu's clones. Their souls were their strongest points. It was too presumptuous for the Dreadfiend King to shake Li Yu's soul with just his power. Die, you bugs! The fear domain erupted. Fear Fiend King did not hesitate and immediately launched an attack. A huge skeletal staff appeared in his hand. The Dreadlord raised his staff, intending to smash Victor and Audiobook into pieces with one blow each. Devil, accept the judgment of the holy light. Before the Dreadfiend King could attack, a bright holy light shone. The holy light turned into a golden hammer and smashed onto the Dreadfiend King's head. Bang! Sparks flew off the Dreadlord's head, and it staggered a little. Ah! A painful wail came out of Dread Demon King's mouth. The dizzy Dread Demon King still had a look of disbelief on its face. How could this be? The power of these two fellows is at most equivalent to that of a low-level god. How can they be immune to my domain of fear? This was equivalent to the domain of a great divine power. Li Yu didn't have the habit of explaining things to his enemies. Audiobook's dark judgment. The huge black axe was swung out, and dark flames burned fiercely on the battle axe. While Victor's judgment hit the Dreadfiend King, Audiobook leaped up and swung his axe, slashing it onto the Dreadfiend King's neck. Blood splattered. The huge neck of the Dreadfiend King was slashed by Audiobook's dark judgment. The neck was split in half, and even the neck bone was broken. However, the effect of this attack was not ideal. Logically speaking, if a normal creature's neck was cut in half, with only a sliver of skin and flesh attached to it, they would be deader than dead. However, the Dreadfiend King was not a normal creature. Worm, you've angered me. The Dreadfiend King roared. A dark light flashed, and the wound on the Dreadfiend King's neck healed instantly. Do you see? This is the power of a high-level lord of the abyss. This is my kingdom. This is my territory. In my territory, my power is limitless. My life is eternal. You can't kill me. The Dreadfiend King swung his scepter, and endless flames burst out from his body. This was the destructive demon fire, one of the Dreadfiend King's divine powers. Divine protection. The moment the destructive demonic fire rushed out, Victor quickly activated invincibility. The destructive demon fire was different from the realm of fear. This destructive power was equivalent to a great divine power. It was not targeted at the soul, but the body. There was no way to be immune to it. He could only activate invincibility to block it. Dark barrier. Audouin raised his axe, activating the power of faith within, and resisted the destructive demon fire. You blocked it? Oomph. How long can you block it? In my kingdom, in my territory, my power is limitless. Your final struggle is meaningless. The Dreadfiend King raised his scepter, and the destructive demon fire rushed out like a volcanic eruption. The overwhelming demonic flame of fear completely engulfed Audouin and Victor. Hey, how much longer? If this goes on, the consumption will be too great. Is your plan reliable? Victor, who was activating invincibility, turned his head and shouted at Audouin, "Big loss. Big loss. Helping you deal with the Dreadfiend King this time consumed too much power of faith. It's a losing business. Hey, how much longer do we have to wait?" What do you mean by losing business? This is completely your own business. You want to do business for your own business? Is this a bad habit brought over by the main body? Audouin rolled his eyes, and a dark power spewed out from his hand, resisting the destructive demon fire that was sweeping over. Soon. Wait a little longer. It will be done soon. All right. Why did you come here alone? Why didn't you bring the legendary team over? The power of legendary is still too weak. Bringing them here would be sending them to their deaths. There's no need for them. Also, didn't you not bring the beauty army over? Letting me bring the legendary team. Are you trying to cheat me? What kind of bad habit is this? You even cheat yourself? Victor also rolled his eyes. This bad habit of cheating others was really bad. He had cheated so many people that he even cheated his own clone. What was this? You're thinking too much. I'll let you bring people here to familiarize yourself with the environment. After all, after killing the Dreadfiend King, we still have many battles to fight. We can't always be at the front. Audouin shook his head and explained to Victor. Kill me? Dream on. This is my territory. My power is endless. Only death awaits you. Hearing the two bastards still chatting here, the anger in the Dreadfiend King's heart burst through the sky. Your territory? Audouin chuckled and shook his head at the Dreadfiend King. It's not anymore. As soon as he said that, there was a violent roar between heaven and earth. A crimson flame shot up into the sky and engulfed the entire sky. Impassioned singing echoed between heaven and earth, and bright flags flutter high up. At this moment, the Dreadfiend King was shocked to discover that he was no longer the lord of the abyss of fear. A crimson power kicked him out of the resonance of the abyss law. Chapter 1455. Freedom, Equality, Justice. Shouts like tsunamis and landslides echoed between heaven and earth. Crimson flames engulfed the entire abyss of fear. A bright flag had been raised on the abyss of fear city wall. The flag was dyed red by hot blood and flames. All the demons in the abyss of fear were purified by the crimson flames. The oppressed slaves, the demons suppressed by fear, had turned the tables. How is this possible? The Fear Demon King's aura instantly dropped from a high-level Abyss Lord to a low-level Abyss Lord. This was the limitation of the Abyss divinity. The power of the Abyss Lord came from the Abyss Law. However, the Abyss represented the origin of chaos and evil in the multiverse. The blessings of the laws of the Abyss were never permanent. Once the territory was lost, the Abyss Lord status would automatically disappear and the Abyss divinity's blessing would be lost. The drop in power was inevitable. Still maintaining the power of a low-level Abyss Lord, the Fear Demon King is not bad. Victor smiled and nodded. Without the Abyss Law's blessing, the Fear Demon King still had the power of a low-level divine power, which was equivalent to the ancient Red Dragon's power. How should we deal with it? Victor turned to look at Audouin, raised his sword, and pointed at the Fear Demon King. Kill it, or modify it. The Abyss is your battlefront. You call the shots. I don't have many talents under me. Let's keep it. Audouin thought for a while. With the Fear Demon King's powerful combat power, it would be a waste to kill it just like that. There were still many places to fight in the future, so it was better to keep it. Up to you. Victor smiled and sheathed his sword, too lazy to make a move. You think you've won? The Fear Demon King trembled in anger when he heard the two completely ignoring his existence. I, the Fear Demon King, am not easy to bully. The Fear Demon King roared and stomped on the ground. He raised his scepter of fear and smashed it at Ajuin. Extraordinary divine power, demon plastic surgery. With a wave of his hand, a black light rushed out and hit the Fear Demon King's head. Ah! The black light flashed, and the Fear Demon King instantly turned into a naked beauty with a voluptuous body. Plop! If his body suddenly changed, he would definitely fall to the ground. Fear Fiend King, who had evolved into a beautiful female warrior, tripped and fell to the ground. Holy **T, this spell of yours is too evil. I can't watch this anymore. Victor glanced at the sexy Dreadlord, and his mouth twitched a few times. He gave Ajuin a look of disdain, waved his hand, opened a teleportation door, and turned to leave. Evil? Are you jealous? Jealousy was a sin. Holy Prince Victor. Ajuin taunted Victor. He swung his axe and smashed the head of the Dreadlord, who had undergone plastic surgery, into her head, knocking her out. Scram! Victor's footsteps seemed to stagger. He cursed angrily and entered the portal, disappearing. Dread Demon King, become a member of my beautiful girl army. You'll love this new identity. He used his axe to draw an enslavement circle on the ground, dragged Fear Fiend King up, and threw her into the circle. A stream of magic was injected into the circle, and a dark glow surged. In a moment, the transformation was completed. Fear King Idea greets my lord. Fear Fiend King, who had transformed into a beautiful female warrior, became the most powerful demon fanatic under Ajuin. From now on, you will continue to control the Abyss of Fear. Lead the Fear Army and conquer the entire Abyss. With a powerful fighter like Fear Fiend King, Ajuin finally did not have to fight on the front lines all the time. I will obey my lord's orders. But I am no longer the lord of the Abyss of Fear. My power is not enough to help my lord suppress those who do not obey. Fear Fiend King Idea lowered his head helplessly. I will bestow you with new power, and the Abyss of Fear will still be yours. Ajuin waved his hand, and a spiritual light entered Fear Fiend King Idea's forehead, adding the Warlock model to Fear Fiend King Idea. Thank you, my lord, for your gift. With the Warlock model, Fear Fiend King's power increased tremendously, enslaving evil demons, painful curse, and blazing destruction. The Warlock's power system was very compatible with Fear Fiend King. My lord, I will go and conquer the Abyss of Fear now. Fear Fiend King Idea raised the scepter of fear and requested, intending to conquer the revolutionary team in the outside world. There is no need. That was originally my power. It is not difficult to bestow it to you again. With a wave of his hand, an invisible wave swept out and filled the entire Abyss of Fear. Kaboom! There was another violent tremor between heaven and earth. The red flames that enveloped the entire Abyss of Fear instantly turned into black flames that were as black as ink. How can I not have a backup plan for the opportunity that I gave away? The mark of Chongshin and evil demon plastic surgery have long been engraved in the red flames. The red flames turned into black flames. At this moment, all the evil demons in the Abyss of Fear let out a shrill howl amidst this violent transformation. When the black flames were extinguished, the billions of evil demons in the Abyss of Fear all turned into beautiful female warriors, all turned into demon fanatics. The mastermind behind this stole the fruits of victory, just like that. It was simply too shameless, too evil. All right, evil demons had no human rights. In the name of Ajuin, I bestow upon Idea the position of Great Commander of the Fear Army and grant Idea the authority to control the Abyss of Fear. Ajuin's voice sounded in the hearts of all the evil demons in the Abyss of Fear. Yes, my lord. Greetings, my lord Ajuin. Greetings, great Commander Ilya. The four sides submitted. According to the laws of the Abyss, the Fear Fiend King once again ascended to the position of the Abyss Overlord of the Abyss of Fear. His power returned to the level of a high-level Abyss Overlord. However, the essence of his power came from Audiobook and was protected by Audiobook's true soul imprint. He would not be eroded by the laws of the Abyss. My Lord Audiobook, you are the master of darkness. You are the origin of evil. You are the embodiment of death. Your radiance will cover the entire world. With billions of evil demon fanatics in his hands, Audiobook's power of faith was as abundant as the deep void, vast and boundless. Main body, after collecting the Fear Fiend King as a sample, have you studied the essence of a god? If you don't become a god soon, I won't be able to suppress it anymore. He poured all the power of faith into the dark battle axe in his hands. Every part of the axe was concentrated with a huge amount of power of faith. If he did not become a god and convert it, the axe would explode. I've studied the Abyss divinity clearly. I still need a god as a sample. The gods can't hold on anymore and will fall to the mortal world soon. Just go and capture a few gods and bring them over. Are the gods finally going to fall to the mortal world? Audiobook nodded. The hunt is about to begin. Chapter 1456. The changes in the Abyss did not affect the main plane at all. While the gods were struggling to maintain their god nations, the path of holy light had already spread throughout the land. The holy light emissary who destroyed the dragon of calamity and destruction and saved the southern countries received widespread praise. Even the priests of the gods were using holy light. The holiness and greatness of holy light had already been deeply ingrained in the hearts of the people. The power of faith that I have gathered is also reaching its limit. Victor pulled out the brilliant holy sword and smiled as he looked at the sky. In the sky, bright stars twinkled with divine radiance. That was the god nations of the gods. Are they finally falling? After holding on for so long, they can't hold on any longer, right? Victor smiled as he shook his head. I've been waiting for a long time. Kaboom! There was a violent explosion in the void. The laws of nature were vibrating, the force was resonating, and the entire world was trembling. The stars in the sky became extremely bright and dazzling. A dazzling star shone with a faint blue radiance, rippling like water. Then it fell straight down from the void, turning into a dazzling meteor. The goddess of spring water has fallen to the mortal world. This was a god with low divine power, the lowest level among the gods. The weakest gods were the ones who could not maintain their divinity first. Rumble. Immediately after, dozens of stars fell after the goddess of spring water fell to the mortal world. The god of poetry, the god of opera, the god of animal husbandry. Dozens of gods with low divine power extinguished their divine light, shattered their god nations, and fell to the ground as meteors. Is this the dusk of the gods? My lord, please guide us. The gods that they believed in fell from their altars and fell to the mortal world. Countless priests wept bitterly as if they had lost their loved ones. The gods fell to the mortal world, and the priests lost their divine power. Fortunately, there was still holy light. At this moment, the priests who had lost their gods suddenly realized that holy light was their true source of support. Rumble. Less than half an hour after the gods with low divine power fell, the gods with medium divine power and great divine power also began to fall. This night, stars fell like rain. The gods fell from their altars and lost their divine positions. The entire world lost the rule of the gods and the order that the gods maintained. Chaos ensued. This is our chance. The world ruled by the gods would be reshuffled. We also have a chance to become gods. Kill the gods, seize their divine cores, ignite their divine fire, and ascend to godhood. Some of the legendary masters in the main plane trembled with excitement when they saw the fall of the gods. This is a calamity, but also an opportunity. If I kill the other gods and seize their divinity, My divine domain will continue to grow, and I will be able to ascend to godhood once more. The gods weren't harmonious either. There were countless conflicts and hatred between them. Moreover, seizing the divinity of other gods, perfecting one's own priesthood, and ascending to godhood was a huge temptation for the gods. Your Highnesses, it's time for the hunt. When the devil king of hell saw this, he smiled in delight. As for the lords of the abyss, it didn't matter who they attacked. Gods were simply too detestable, even more detestable than devils. Let's teach them a lesson first. The entire world was in chaos. Smoke rose everywhere, and the flames of war swirled about. In the south of the continent, this land, shrouded in holy light, had become the holy land of the entire main plain. There was no war here, no chaos here. There was only light and order here. Praise the holy light. Countless people who had been ravaged by the flames of war fled and rushed to the south of the continent to join the holy land. Holy light, save us. Demons, we are being attacked by demons. Holy light, please give us the power to fight against evil. Evil demons, the holy light will punish you. In the region outside the holy light kingdom, the legendary masters were fighting with the gods. The gods were also fighting with each other. The lords of hell and the lords of the abyss were also stirring up trouble everywhere. No one knew who was the enemy, nor who was the friend. The forces of order were at war. The forces of chaos were also at war. The forces of good were at war, and the forces of evil were at war. It was a complete mess. The gods were no longer protecting the people. Only the holy light was their last hope. At this time, the people who had been ravaged by the flames of war were shouting for the holy light, praying for the holy light, and hoping for the holy light. Your Highness Victor, you are the emissary of the holy light. You are the embodiment of light and justice. You are the God who walks the earth. In Amber City, the main city of the Holy Light Alliance formed by the southern countries, the kings and legendary masters for various countries knelt in front of Victor. Evil is invading this world. Blood and death are spreading in this world. Countless innocent people are calling for the holy light, hoping for salvation. Your Highness Victor, send out the troops. Holy light above, we will save this world. We will protect this world. This is the sacred duty given to us by the holy light. Neat rows of paladins and priests were chanting the virtues of the holy light and asking Victor to go to war. I still remember that year. Amber City was also facing the invasion of evil and facing destruction. Holy radiance shone, and Victor spread his radiant wings and floated into the sky. Right here, right in this city, I swear a holy oath. I hereby swear a holy oath. Modesty, honesty, compassion, justice, bravery, sacrifice, honor, and protection. This is the virtue of the holy light. I swear to be kind to the weak. I swear to not fear the strong. I swear to fight against evil. I swear to protect the people. The mighty voice echoed between heaven and earth, and the holy light illuminated the entire world. Everyone, Victor reached out and pulled out his longsword. The brilliant holy sword pointed to the north, pointing to the land where the flames of war were raging. Protect the world, save the people, and fight against evil. This is the great mission given to us by the holy light. This is the holy oath we swear in front of the holy light. This is also our belief. In the name of the holy light, I command. All the holy light army below straighten their chests and raise their longswords. Lead the army to the north, crusade against evil, and save the world. The longsword in Victor's hand burst out with brilliant light, and the holy power shook the world. Crusade against evil. Save the world. Crusade against evil. Save the world. Crusade against evil. Save the world. Countless warriors of the holy light raised their long swords and shouted loudly. Let's go. The horses' hooves were like thunder, and the holy light was like the sea. The knights of the holy light raised the flag of the holy light and shouted the holy name of Victor as they charged into the battlefield. The holy light would bring light and justice to this world again, and bring order back. This battle is also my battle to become a god. Victor smiled as he looked at the void. Ajuin, I will soon sweep the world and pacify the entire main plane. You also have to speed up your progress in conquering the abyss and hell. Take care of yourself. Maybe I'll be faster than you. Ajuin pursed his lips. With a top abyss lord like the Dreadlord leading the team, his journey of conquest was very smooth. Chapter 1457. Don't forget, capturing a god for research is our key mission. Ajuin's achievements in the Abyss were remarkable. He had captured the Dreadlord as his subordinate and had thoroughly studied the laws of the Abyss divinity. If not for his dissatisfaction with the Abyss, Ajuin could have become the god of the Abyss. I'm ready to capture a god. Don't worry. Victor smiled with a relaxed expression. A god who had fallen to the mortal world had lost his divine position and his power had plummeted. He only had the power of a saint. Even the primordial red dragon and the Dreadlord had been defeated. It would not take much effort to defeat a legend in the form of a saint. The main plane was huge. However, compared to the Abyss and Hell, the main plane was much smaller. Victor's mission of saving the world was much easier than Ajuin's. The god of the hunt, the god of massacre, the god of tyranny. These evil gods will be the first targets. Wasn't it normal for good to fight evil? Victor looked at the holy light shining on his body and smiled. I am the holy Victor, the embodiment of light and justice. Of course, I will crusade against evil. With a flap of his wings, Victor's figure disappeared in an instant. Shadowy mountains. This was the border between the Orc Kingdom and the Human Kingdom. At the same time, this was the lair of the war creatures and the base of the god of the hunt. Vivian, purify them. In shadowy mountains, in a huge castle, Sauron and Vivian were fighting a group of war creatures. Ajuin and Victor worked together to turn the Dreadlord into Ajuin's androgynous warrior. This made Vivian, the Witch of Fear, no longer under the control of the Dreadlord. Vivian broke off her connection with the Dreadlord and broke free from the shackles. Her fate was no longer controlled by others. Now that Vivian and Sauron had become legendary professionals, their power was very strong. Holy quake, spring of light. Rays of holy light shone, and the bright light illuminated the entire castle. Under the sweep of this light, the war creatures who were illuminated by the holy light let out a burst of shrill screams. Their bodies were ignited with holy flames, and one by one, they were burned to ashes. Sword of holy light. Against the war creatures, the power of holy light was naturally the most suitable. Sauron activated Blessing of You, and his whole body shone with holy light. The long sword in his hand burst out with holy light, and like a storm, he cut the war creatures in front of him into pieces. Damn mortal! How dare you attack the people of the great god of hunting? You are courting death. A blood-red radiance soared into the sky. It was bloody and brutal, but it also carried a divine aura. In this blood-red light, a 3-meter-tall figure with golden hair all over his body and 2 hunting blades in his hands rushed out with a roar. This was a werewolf, a giant golden-furred werewolf. That was the original form of the god of hunting after he fell to the mortal world. All of you are my prey. With a flash of crimson light, the god of the hunt swayed and appeared behind Vivian in an instant. It then stabbed its 2 sharp crimson blades at Vivian. The blade of hunting, the divine weapon of the god of hunting. In addition to the indestructible properties of divine weapons, there were also a series of extraordinary properties such as sharpness, armor penetration, magic penetration, bleeding, and highly toxic. If Vivian was stabbed by the blade of hunting, even if it did not stab her vital parts, she would bleed and die from poisoning. This was the power of a divine weapon. Holy shield. When the blade of hunting was about to pierce into Vivian's body, a curtain of holy light formed in front of Vivian to protect her. Boom! The 2 dark, red hunting blades stabbed heavily on the holy shield, and a violent roar burst out. Crack! There was a crisp sound on the holy shield, and it made a shattering sound. A divine weapon was a divine weapon after all. Even if the god of hunting had fallen from his position as a god, his power was still very terrifying. This blow had already broken Vivian's holy shield. It only blocked for a moment, and in the next moment, the blade of hunting would pierce into Vivian's body. Clang! A sword light rushed up, and Sauron's figure appeared. A long sword with a cold aura slashed fiercely on the blade of hunting, and a violent shock repelled the god of hunting. Dark speech, it hurts! Vivian pointed out a finger, and a dark light hit the god of hunting's head. Ouch! The severe pain made the god of hunting let out a shrill scream. Shadow Chi Slash. The strongest skill of the Shadow Sword Saint, a one-time explosion of the sword aura in the body, turned into a Shadow Sword Light, and had a strong attack power. The Shadow Sword aura turned into a crescent-like brilliance and slashed fiercely on the god of hunting. However, this blow did not achieve the expected effect. Bang! When the sword slashed on the god of hunting, a golden ring on the wolf's ear burst instantly. A shield condensed from golden light blocked Sauron's Shadow Sword aura. The Shadow Sword aura and the golden light shield violently collided, and both were annihilated and turned into nothingness. Divine power? The power of this golden light shield made Sauron's face become very dignified. The god of hunting actually left some divine power, which was very troublesome. Sauron had already seen that there were still 5 golden rings on the wolf's ear. In other words, he could still use divine power 5 times. Divine power was the highest power in this world. This power was not something the legendary figure could easily deal with. Sauron thought that he was going to crush a soft persimmon, but he did not expect to encounter a walnut. This made Sauron a bit of a dilemma. A god of hunting with divine power and the god of hunting without divine power were 2 completely different concepts. If they continued to fight, there would definitely be casualties. If Vivian was injured, then the loss would outweigh the gain. Do you need help? Suddenly, a light flashed by Sauron's side, and a smiling victor appeared beside Sauron. Holy light messenger! The god of hunting's pupil shrank, and his face was full of nervousness. He felt a great deal of pressure for Victor's arrival. Brother Victor, you're here. That's great. Help me beat him. This bad guy is too bad. Seeing Victor appear, Vivian cheered happily. You also need divinity? Sauron turned his head and glanced at Victor, a little surprised. Holy light was not faith. Why would Victor, the holy light messenger, hunt gods and seize divinity? No, I don't use divinity. Victor smiled, stretched out his hand, pulled out a long sword, and pointed at the god of hunting. But isn't it normal for good to fight evil? Okay. Sauron shrugged his shoulders and pointed at the god of hunting. Please purify this evil god with holy light. Of course. Victor raised the long sword, and the holy light shone. God of hunting, accept the judgment of holy light. The mighty light swept out, covering the sky and earth. Chapter 1458. Emissary of the Holy Light, you are just a mortal. How dare you blaspheme a god? The god of hunting waved the blade of hunting, roared angrily, and rushed toward Victor. Judgment of Holy Light. The brilliant sacred hammer fell from the sky and smashed heavily on the head of the god of hunting. With a loud bang, the god of hunting staggered. He was dizzy and saw stars. Crusader strike. The long sword in his hand burst out with endless light. The long sword that had accumulated the power of faith was so powerful that it made even the gods tremble. With a slash of the sword, blood spurted wildly. The head of the god of hunting flew up and fell into the dust. Boom! The blood-red light rose into the sky and went straight into the clouds. There was a loud rumbling sound in the void. A dim blood-red star collapsed in the light and turned into a rain of blood that scattered all over the sky. This was the remnant divine kingdom of the god of hunting. When the god of hunting fell, the remnant divine kingdom completely collapsed and was annihilated. At the same time, The body of the god of hunting turned into a bloody light that flew up like fireflies. The light spots were constantly annihilated and dissipated. A god had fallen. The god of hunting had officially fallen. When the blood-red light dissipated, only a crystal that looked like a blood-red diamond was left floating in the air. This was the divine spark of the god of hunting. All of the god of hunting's divine soul was eliminated, leaving only the pure hunting priesthood and hunting divinity. This was formed by the laws and did not have any mark of the god of hunting. Anyone who fused with this divine spark would have the qualifications to become a god. Godhood, interesting indeed. Victor reached out and grabbed the divine spark of hunting in his hand. He scanned the system repository and scanned all the information of the divine spark of hunting. This thing is not bad. Victor handed the divine spark of hunting to Soren. There is no distinction between good and evil in killing, but hunting is inclined toward evil. Moreover, inheriting the complete divine spark of hunting will limit your path. It is up to you whether you want to fuse with it directly or comprehend the essence of killing and condense your own divine spark. I'm not interested in hunting. Sauron smiled and took the divinity of hunt, slaughter, and death. I think these two clergies are more suitable for me. Death. Forget it. Victor shook his head helplessly. Audiobook was known as the Wing of Death, and he had already declared himself to be the master of darkness, the origin of evil, and the incarnation of death. Is there a problem? Even though Kalimver is a greater god, it's not impossible to kill him now that he's fallen to the mortal world. Soren looked at Victor doubtfully. It shouldn't be a problem for me to snatch the clergy of death, right? Let's focus on the massacre priesthood. Even if you snatch the divinity of the god of death, it's useless. Victor smiled and shook his head. Someone has already reserved the godhood of death, and it's directly condensing the godhood of death from the origin law. You have no chance. Is that so? Soren nodded. Then I'll focus on the killing priesthood. Since Victor had said so, it meant that there was no chance for him to get the death priesthood. Moreover, according to Soren's experience in his previous life, killing was also an innate path, and one could also reach the pinnacle of existence. In this calamity, there were still many powerful existences, and Soren's power was not invincible. Gods, lords of the abyss, and demon kings of hell had all fallen. It would be too much of a loss to be killed because of fighting for the death priesthood. What about Vivian? What's your plan? Your brother wants to become the god of massacre. What's your goal? Victor turned to look at Vivian and asked with a smile. Me? Vivian was at a loss. Her power was both holy light and shadow, as well as the Witch of Trepidation's power of fear. She did not know how to choose. Since my brother wants to become the god of massacre, then I'll be the god of destruction. Vivian turned to look at Soren with a blissful smile on her face. All right, Sister Khan and Brother Khan met a bunch. You guys can play however you want. Victor waved his hand. I'll take my leave first. Taking a step forward, Victor instantly disappeared. In the endless void, Li Yu's main body received the information from Victor's divine spark. So this is what a god is. After deciphering the information from the divine spark and combining it with the abyss divine spark of the Lord of the Abyss, Li Yu had already understood the essence of a god. A god originated from laws and faith. When laws and faith were combined, the essence of a god was the law of the divine soul. For example, the god of massacre that Soren wanted was to combine the god's divine soul and the law of massacre into one, relying on faith to continuously strengthen this fusion. In the end, the divine soul was the law, and the law was the divine soul. I see. Li Yu's mind was suddenly enlightened. The key point of the third step of chaos, deification of chaos, was that after the divine soul turned into chaos, the consciousness would cease to exist. This would result in the situation of losing oneself from cultivation. If, referring to the essence of a god, with the power of faith as a catalyst, the divine soul would turn into chaos. In the end, I am chaos and chaos is me. The concept of self was equivalent to chaos, and chaos were two sides of the same coin. This situation of losing oneself from cultivation did not exist. This method seems feasible. Liu deduced and felt that this method had a possibility of success. Then let Victor become the god of light and order, and Audouin become the god of darkness and chaos. Then use their power of faith to catalyze this process and try to deify chaos. This was also an experiment. If it succeeded, Liu could officially step into the third step of chaos. Even if it failed, he would only lose 2 clones. This price was not serious. In other words, it's still the original plan? Victor shrugged and raised the sword of Holy Light. Holy Light Army, wipe out evil and save the world. Conquer the main plane and wipe out all rebels. Then with this prestige, he would ascend to the position of a god in one fell swoop. Then it would be time to experiment. Whether he would live or die, it was really hard to say. Idea, I'll give you 1 year. I give you full authority. Within 1 year, conquer the abyss and flatten hell. Audouin also knew that it was now a critical moment. Victor and Audouin, one light and one dark, became 2 extremes. They came from the same source and finally merged into one. Under the catalysis of the power of faith, they would try to deify chaos. This step was the most crucial step for Liu. As long as he stepped into the third step of chaos, I am the ruler of all worlds, would not be empty words. Once he reached the third step of chaos, those celestial emperors would be nothing at all. Liu would also be qualified to reveal the truth of everything. Just wait. This day will come soon. Chapter 1459. The war continued. In the main plane, the Holy Light Army launched a war of salvation. In the abyss and hell, Audouin's beautiful female warriors launched a war of conquest. The flames of war burned and time passed. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. In this year, Audouin's beautiful female warriors, under the leadership of Fear Demon King, swept across the abyss in all directions. Other than a few other top abyss lords, the other abyss lords were no match for Fear Demon King at all. The army was unstoppable. After conquering the low-level abyss, Audouin led a group of abyss lords and swept across the world, defeating the remaining top abyss lords. My lord Audouin, you are the ruler of the abyss. At this moment, Audouin conquered the entire abyss and also feminized the entire abyss. Following which, Audouin led the forces of the entire abyss and charged into hell. The 9 levels of hell, the 9 demon kings, were quickly flattened by Audouin's terrifying, beautiful female army. From this day onwards, there were no more demons or devils in the abyss and hell. Only countless beautiful female warriors were left. The goal of feminizing the abyss and hell had been achieved. Countless demons in the abyss and countless devils in hell had all become Audouin's harem. Even if he changed one every day, it would take hundreds of millions of years for him to change once. It was unimaginably terrifying. I swear to be kind to the weak. I swear to not fear the strong. I swear to fight against evil. I swear to protect the people. The holy light illuminated the world. The huge holy light army shouted the holy oath and swept across the world. The wild highlands, the frozen earth, the scorching desert, the outer islands, the dark underground, every piece of land in the main plain was illuminated by the holy light. Praise the holy light. Praise the holy Lord Victor. We have won. We have saved the entire world. The cheers were like a tide. In the holy light, everyone was cheering and shouting. The demons and devils that invaded the main plane had their lairs attacked by Audouin, and the main plane was crushed by Victor. They had lost completely. The gods who had fallen to the mortal world had no research value at all. Those who were willing to accept the concept of the holy light joined the big family of the holy light. Those who dared to resist all fell. The holy light represents light, justice, order, and kindness. Holy light illuminated the sky. Victor's head was shining with a holy halo, and his wings were spreading out behind him. His mighty voice spread throughout the entire world and the entire multiverse. I, Victor Serone Antares, Use the holy light as my belief in this life to protect the world, protect the people, and uphold light and justice. With the power of the holy light, I will ignite the divine fire, condense the Godhead, build the divine kingdom, and hold the throne high above. Following Victor's announcement, the entire main plane turned into a sea of holy light. The holy light surged like a tidal wave. Boom! Dazzling radiance burst forth from Victor's body, burning with holy flames. It was like a scorching sun hanging high in the sky. I am the god of light. A throne condensed from holy light appeared beside Victor. Victor sat on the throne and slowly rose into the sky amidst the dazzling radiance. My lord Victor, you are the master of light, the embodiment of justice, and the source of order. Amidst the prayers of countless people, Victor held the throne high and ascended to the throne. The dazzling holy light illuminated the entire sky and the entire multiverse. At this moment, it was as if the entire multiverse was about to turn into a kingdom of holy light. Hey, you've crossed the line. Endless darkness rushed up, covering the sky and the earth, shrouding all directions. Black flames surged all over Ajuin's body. The dark flames poured into the abyss and hell like a tide, turning the abyss and hell into a deep darkness. My name is Ajuin Isario. Darkness is my eyes, evil is my horns, death is my wings, and chaos is my body. I am the dragon of darkness, a gigantic black dragon that was boundless and encompassed the entire abyss and hell manifested in the void. Endless darkness occupied the other half of the multiverse, standing opposite the holy light from afar. If one were to look at it from a higher dimension, Victor and Ajuin, light and darkness, were opposite to each other, yet connected head to tail, like the Tai Chi yin-yang fish. Tai Chi is the birth of yin and yang. This is a law of unity of opposites. With yin and yang as the foundation, it reverses nature and turns into chaos. Liyu's main body that was hidden in the depths of the void had already opened his eyes. Light and darkness, order and chaos, good and evil. This is the origin of the entire multiverse. All life, all matter, originates from the intertwining evolution of the power of yin and yang. So, Liyu's main body looked up at Victor and Ajuin. Yin and yang originates from chaos. The two of you also originate from me. You are completely compatible with the laws of yin and yang. Then fuse. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out. Like the creation of the world, like the Big Bang of the universe. Light and darkness, order and chaos, good and evil. These two opposing yet unified forces clashed and blended with each other. The entire multiverse was shaking and trembling. Time and space were collapsing. Matter was being annihilated, and order and laws were no more. The end was coming. Indeed, have I ruined this world? Liu sighed helplessly. With a wave of his hand, all life in the multiverse was collected by Liu. Rumble. Reversing yin and yang, returning to chaos. Everything was being destroyed. Everything was being annihilated. Everything was being destroyed. The earth collapsed. The stars were being annihilated, and all the planes in the multiverse, be it hell, abyss, the main plane, or even other small planes, were all being annihilated and destroyed. A ray of destructive light shone. This was the last ray of light, and also the last movement. When the light dissipated, the entire multiverse was gone. Only an indescribable mass of chaos was left floating in the endless void. The experiment of the third step of chaos has succeeded and also failed. Looking at this mass of chaotic airflow, Liu sighed and shook his head helplessly. Part of the success was that the soul had fused with chaos, and achieving the third step of chaos was indeed feasible. At this moment, after Ajuin and Victor had fused, their souls had become one with this mass of chaos, and all their memories were engraved in the chaos, not being annihilated and not disappearing. But they had still lost their selves. Even though they had all their memories, they had lost their emotions and turned into a cold, mechanical, and absolutely rational heavenly axiom. I don't want to become such an existence. Liu shook his head with a gloomy expression. Chapter 1460. At least I found a way to retain my memories. In the third step of chaos, the soul turned into chaos, erasing all traces of one's existence and becoming an indescribable thing. This was the most likely result. At this moment, Liu found a way to retain his memories after stepping into the third step of chaos. It could be considered a major breakthrough. Unfortunately, there are only memories but no emotions. This still couldn't meet Liu's requirements. Emotions. I once created the demonic path and turned Xian, a heartless guy, into a demon of freedom. I have also researched this power. Liu sighed and shook his head. These are all chi cultivation methods that I have researched. They are meaningless in front of chaos. There was another way to not walk the path of cultivation. That was evolution. The evolution of life itself might be a reference. So, I still have to meet Professor X. The evolution of human genes gave birth to the power of the soul. For Liu, this might be able to give him some inspiration. Then let's go to the world of the mutants. After making up his mind, Liu turned his head to look at the indescribable chaos and shook his head. Since I ruined a world, let's create another one. With a point of his finger, a bit of chaotic light rushed out and hit the chaotic airflow. Boom! At the beginning of chaos, Yin and Yang appeared, and heaven and earth were born. A new world evolved in front of Liu. The laws intertwined. Earth, water, fire, and wind spewed out, and matter and energy were born. Everything in heaven and earth continued to evolve, and a vast world slowly unfolded. The Titan Temple, Azura, Draenor, the Twisted Void, and Azeroth. You guys can play the game of hegemony again. With a wave of his hand, Liu collected all the creatures from the multiverse, burned their bodies, washed their souls and memories, and turned them into soul origins and entered this newly born world. Ugh! Soren woke up from a deep sleep and only felt a splitting headache. Illidan, wake up! Wake up! If you don't get up, Teacher Cenarius will punish you. A purple-skinned elven youth, holding a wooden root with tender branches in his hand, gently tapped Soren's back. Illidan? Me? Solon was dumbfounded. What was going on? Did I transmigrate again? I transmigrated again. Then what about Vivian? Where is Vivian? Sauron quickly got up and looked around. In front of him was a lush forest, full of verdant and full of vitality. But he didn't see Vivian anywhere. Vivian, where are you? Where are you? Sauron's heart was filled with fear. He rushed out crazily and shouted Vivian's name. Illidan, what are you shouting about? Who is Vivian? At this time, a beautiful elven girl appeared from behind a big tree behind Soren. Vivian. Seeing this girl, Sauron was already infatuated. He was so happy that he went crazy. Vivian was still here. Vivian was still here. That's great. That's great. Two streams of tears of joy flowed out of Sauron's amber eyes. He was crying tears of joy. Vivian? Me? The elven girl pointed at her nose, her face full of shock. Illidan, are you stupid? I'm Tyrant. Oh, Tyrant, Tyrant. Sauron laughed loudly. Yes, I'm Illidan. Of course you're Tyrant. The ecstatic Sauron pulled Vivian's hand, which was Tyrant's hand, and cheered, jumped, and shouted in the forest. Well, as long as you're happy. Liu looked at Sauron and nodded with a smile. Young man, the blessing of you that I gave you allowed you to have the holy light eyes and the heart of darkness. You are the child of light and the child of darkness. It's up to you how you choose your path. Light Victor and darkness Audiobook created this world together. Sauron, who received Liu's blessing, naturally received the light and darkness blessings at the same time. This is a new world with a vast and boundless territory and limitless splendor. You have fun. I'll take my leave now. After retrieving Victor and Audiobook, these two clones, Liu was too lazy to care about this new world that he had created. He wanted to use this to commemorate the years of conquering Azeroth. Liu waved his hand, and took a step forward, disappearing without a trace. With my current strength, I can travel through the void even without the system's teleportation. There's no need to return to the immortal mansion space. Following the coordinates in the God's world, Liu traversed through endless space and arrived in the God's world. It's still the same as before. Looking at the God's world that encompassed countless planes, Liu smiled and nodded. Back then, when he had arrived in the God's world, Liu had already hacked the god and given a cheat to a fat otaku, Brother Prestige. Revisiting an old place didn't bring much emotion. The demonized Team China was still slaughtering everywhere. They defeated the various teams, and then had a love-hate relationship with Team China's clone, Team Devil. The feeling of beating yourself up, as long as you like it. Too lazy to care about Team China's story, Liu set his gaze on a plane under the god's control. X-Men. The power level of this world is countless times lower than that of Sauron's world. It's like blowing up this plane with a breath. The movie version of the X-Men world was so weak compared to the manga version of blowing up planets and destroying the universe. Forget it. To me, strength and weakness have no meaning. In front of chaos, everything is the same. It was definitely impossible for his main body to enter the X-Men world. The only way was to send a clone in, splitting a clone and reducing the clone's soul power to the level that the X-Men world could accommodate. Liu grabbed this clone and waved his hand into the X-Men world. This is the X-Men world? A formless soul floated in the sky, surrounded by gunfire. This was a battlefield. Cannons roared and machine guns raked. Various fighter jets and bombers whistled through the air. This is the era when Magneto had just awakened. Liu's clone shuttled through the air for a while and discovered that this was the European battlefield during World War II. Let's find Magneto first. Magneto's power, as well as the Black Emperor Sebastian's power, were both very valuable for research. After coming into contact with Magneto, he would then go and harm Charles. Releasing his soul sensing, Liu found Magneto, who had been captured and sent to the concentration camp. At this moment, the young Magneto was locked up in the prison of the concentration camp. In the dark and damp prison, a dozen or so youths were squeezed densely together. Sorrow, despair, and the fear of death made the prison deathly silent. Being Eric's companion seems to be quite interesting. Chapter 1461. In the corner of the prison, a teenager leaning against the corner seemed to be asleep. In fact, he was already dead. It was late at night. In the dark and silent prison, most of the people were sleeping, and no one paid attention to the teenager who had died long ago. It's you. Liu's avatar rushed into the body of the dead teenager, and the huge spiritual power instantly occupied his mind and reactivated his vitality. Bang, bang, bang. The heart beat again, the blood flowed again, and the sound of breathing was heard again. An ordinary teenager, his soul has dissipated, and even his name is not left. From the appearance, this should be a teenager of Northern European descent. Stretching out his hand in front of his eyes, the pale arm was very thin, the body was very weak, and he had a heart disease. No wonder he died. Liu smiled and shook his head. Original body, sense of vitality over, and transform this body. I still have to stay in this world for a long time, so I can't die too quickly. An invisible ripple flashed, and a drop of water from the divine spring that was brimming with vitality fused with Liu's new avatar. As if soaking in a hot spring, his whole body was comfortable and his spirit was greatly refreshed. His flesh and bones were constantly strengthened, and the thin body also became full and strong. The holy spring water from the shrouded sky world, even if there is only one drop, it is a peerless treasure. Feeling the vitality contained in the body, a smile appeared on Liu's face. A drop of water can make a person reborn and live a long life. Standing up with the wall, Liu glanced around the prison and found Magneto, who was still a child. Eric was sitting in front of the iron window, still awake. Looking up, staring at the small window, looking at the starry sky in the night, he seemed to be looking forward to freedom. Thin and short, the current Magneto is not the peerless powerhouse who can shake the world. He is still a teenager immersed in sadness and fear, looking forward to freedom. What's your name? Liu walked to Magneto's side and asked in a low voice. Me? My name is Eric. What about you? Eric was a little surprised by Liu's arrival. Me? My name is... Liu scratched his head. What was his name? Forget it. Let's call him Sargeras. I'm Sargeras. Sargeras? Eric didn't know the terrifying origin of this name, so he didn't pay too much attention to it. He only nodded slightly. Are you scared? Liu asked Eric. What? Eric raised his head to look at Liu. He was stunned for a moment before he lowered his head again. Yes, I'm scared. I'm very scared. They killed a lot of people. He killed a lot of people. I'm scared. I was separated from my mother. I didn't know where she was kept, and I didn't know if they would kill her. I'm scared. Eric's thin body trembled slightly, and the tears in his eyes fell to the ground. Don't be afraid. We will live. I will definitely survive. Liu patted Eric's shoulder. Then he plucked a strand of hair from Eric's head and stored it in the system's repository. This was a genetic specimen. Can we survive? Eric raised his head. There seemed to be a glimmer of hope in his desperate eyes. Even if it was just a consolation in this desperate world, it could give people a glimmer of hope. Of course. Liu nodded firmly. Believe me, we will definitely survive. We will definitely leave this place alive. After collecting Eric's genetic sample, the system replicated Eric's X gene. Then, it would create Eric's X gene, integrate it into the body of the clone, and activate the arcana. How simple would that be? Magnetic manipulation arcana analysis complete. Do you want to integrate the magnetic manipulation gene? The power of the main body was too strong. If he didn't want to destroy the world, he couldn't directly interfere with this world. He could only solve the problem through the system. Integrate. The level 4 mutant's magnetic manipulation ability was also very useful for the time being. There was a roar in his mind, and a magma-like heat flow erupted in his body. Every cell in his body was trembling, constantly being destroyed and reborn. Sweat poured out like water. Liu's clothes were soaked with sweat that faintly carried traces of blood. What's wrong? Seeing Liu sweating all over, and the sweat with traces of blood, Eric was horrified. He quickly reached out to support Liu. Sargeras, how are you? Are you all right? Phew. Liu let out a long breath. Integrating the gene caused all the cells in his body to be destroyed and reborn. It was really painful. Even with Liu's tyrannical soul, it was so painful that the corner of his mouth twitched. It's okay. I'm fine. Turning his head to give Eric a smile, a mysterious smile appeared on Liu's face. Eric, I've awakened. Awakened? What do you mean? Eric looked at Liu in confusion. He didn't know what this Sargeras was talking about. Look, Liu stretched out a finger and hooked it slightly. The thick iron bar inlaid on the small window of the prison kept bending as Liu hooked his finger. Eric's whole body shook, his face full of shock. What power is this? The power after awakening. Liu smiled and looked at Eric. Do you know why I'm talking to you? Because you and I are the same person. I can feel that there is a great power sleeping in your body. It seems that my awakening is also related to you. Me? I have this power too? Eric's eyes were burning with passion. What should I do? With this power, we can escape. We can live. That's your power. What you do is up to you. Maybe intense emotions can awaken your power. Sadness, pain, fear, or something else. Eric, everyone is different. Your power can only be awakened by yourself. Of course, Liu could help Eric awaken the X gene, but the power awakened by himself was the most suitable. The night passed, and the sun rose. Outside the window, the rain poured down, mixed with bursts of lightning and thunder, waking all the youths in the prison. Get up! Get up! The rough roars of the soldiers were even more frightening than the thunder. The iron door slammed open, and 2 soldiers with submachine guns roared at the prison. Get the hell out! Get out, all of you! The prison cells opened one by one, and groups of desperate and terrified figures were escorted forward by the soldiers. In front, there was a huge house. The four sides were tightly shut, and there were no windows. There was only a door leading to the house. "Sarger is there. It said that there are people going in every day, but I've never heard of anyone coming out." Eric turned to look at Liu, his face pale. "Gas chamber." Liu looked at the huge house in front and sighed deeply. The gas chamber of the concentration camp was infamous. Gas chamber. Eric's whole body trembled, and he reached out to grab Liu's arm. "Sarger is... We don't worry. We can live." Liu nodded at Eric. Thinking of Liu's magical power, Eric already had some confidence in surviving, and his expression became relaxed, until he saw his mother. Among the group of people being escorted to the gas chamber, one of them was his mother. "Mother! Mother! No! No!" Eric cried out in pain, then grabbed Liu's hand. "Sarger is... Save her! Save her! I beg you, save her!" "No! Eric, I won't save her. You can only save her yourself." Liu stared into Eric's eyes, his face full of determination. "Eric, use your heart and call for your strength. Your mother is about to be killed by them. Are you sad? In pain? Angry? Then roar. Magneto!" Eric's eyes were red, and he roared furiously. A huge magnetic storm swept out, and all the metal products around were shaking wildly and twisting violently. Magneto was born. Recommended a new book, system. Please line up. A new system every day, 365 different systems in 365 days. It's a creative work worth reading. Chapter 1462. The magnetic storm swept through the entire concentration camp. Magneto roared angrily, venting the anger, pain, and fear in his heart. The helmets on the soldiers' heads twisted sharply, and the huge force seemed to crush their skulls. This made them hold their heads and howl in pain. There were also some strong-willed soldiers who struggled to raise the guns in their hands after discovering that this change was related to Eric. Then, these guns were also twisted into fried dough twists in the magnetic storm. "Eric, go save your mother. Let's get out of here." Liu reached out and patted Eric on the shoulder, letting the crazily roaring young man regain his senses. "Get out of here?" "Yes, get out of here." Eric was shocked, recovered, and hurriedly ran in the direction of his mother. The soldiers fell to the ground, and the prisoners in the concentration camp screamed in panic and scattered. The scene was chaotic. Mom! Mom!" The panicked crowd blocked Eric's way, and his mother was pushed further and further away by the flow of people. "Eric, magnetism is your arm, and metal is your tool. As long as you want, you can make magnetism do anything for you." Liu's voice sounded in Eric's ear. "Do anything? Then, I'm going to fly." Eric roared, and the iron bars on the surrounding windows flew one by one, floated to Eric's feet, lifted him up, and rushed into the air shakily. I'm really flying." With a cheer of surprise, Eric rushed over from the air to his mother's side, grabbed his mother's arm, and the two rushed out together. "Sarger, you're right. I've awakened. My power is very powerful." Landing beside Liu, Eric said to Liu with a face full of joy, "Yes, what a powerful power." A voice sounded behind Eric, and a middle-aged man in a neat military uniform with meticulously combed hair walked up with a smile on his face. "The miracle of life, the mystery of evolution. How fascinating. The ability to control metal? Perfect." The middle-aged man smiled as he looked at Eric. His eyes were burning with passion, as if he was admiring a peerless treasure. Seeing this middle-aged man, Eric and his mother took a step back in horror, their faces pale. This was an SS officer who held the power of life and death for all the prisoners in the concentration camp. The SS had a fearsome reputation, which made people feel intimidated just by looking at them. I've awakened. I'm not afraid of you." Eric thought of the power he had awakened, and his courage increased. He waved his hand, and an iron bar flew out like a spear towards the middle-aged man. Swish! The iron bar shot through the air at a speed even faster than a bullet. The iron bar flew out and heavily pierced the middle-aged man's chest, creating a loud bang sound. Then, the middle-aged man was safe and sound. Not even a single strand of hair fell off. Your strength is not bad, but it is meaningless in front of me. The middle-aged man patted his clothes with a smile and extended his arm to Eric. My name is Sebastian. Don't be afraid and don't be nervous. Come with me. I'm your kind. Together, we will create the future. A future where there are no inferior races, only noble mutants. Demon, executioner, I'm not your kind. Under the orders of this officer, many innocent people in the concentration camp were executed. Eric only had hatred in his heart. How could he acknowledge someone of the same kind? Swish, swish. The iron rods whizzed through the air and shot out like arrows, stabbing towards the middle-aged man. Your attacks are meaningless to me. Sebastian didn't pay attention to the iron bars that Eric shot at him and let them pierce his body. Dozens of iron bars flew out, but they only made a few mud spots on Sebastian's clothes, which had no effect at all. With the ability of energy absorption and release, Sebastian could absorb both physical and energy attacks as long as the attack power didn't exceed his tolerance limit. Are you resisting me? Do you hate me? Sebastian looked at Eric's furious face and frowned slightly. I'm your kind. We're the ones who stand together. Are you hating me because of them? Pointing at Eric's mother and Liu, a cold glint flashed in Sebastian's eyes. Are these two lowly races restraining you? Then, I'll help you get rid of them. With a press of his hand, a violent impact burst out and blasted towards Liu and Eric's mother. Sebastian released the kinetic energy that Eric had absorbed when he attacked him. No, Eric roared and put his hands together. Countless metal objects whizzed and turned into a huge metal shield, blocking in front of him. Boom! The violent impact was like a cannonball roaring. The continuous rain was blown away, gravel and mud flew everywhere. Eric was sent flying by the violent impact and fell to the ground. Cut off your ties with the inferior races, and you can find your true self. Believe me, this is for your own good. Sebastian glanced at Eric coldly and raised his hand again, aiming at Liu and Eric's mother. Sargeras, get rid of him! Get rid of him! Eric's mouth was bleeding from the impact just now. He was in so much pain that he couldn't even stand up. He hurriedly shouted at Liu. Sargeras? Who? Sebastian froze for a moment, then shook his head with a smile. Here, I am God. I am God. It's useless for anyone to come. Really? I don't think so. Liu chuckled and waved his hand. A tank parked next to the wall of the concentration camp instantly twisted and merged into a lump of steel. It then smashed towards Sebastian fiercely. You also use this power? Aha, what a surprise. Sebastian didn't care about Liu's attack at all. Instead, he stared at Liu with a face full of surprise. For Sebastian, a piece of steel just absorbed some kinetic energy and wouldn't cause any damage at all. Sebastian was pleasantly surprised to find a new mutant who had the same power as Eric. Then, he fell into the trap. With a crash, the steel ball that was about to hit Sebastian unfolded in an instant. Like a package, it wrapped Sebastian in a thick metal ball, leaving only his head exposed. Sebastian was stunned. He was trapped in this ball of metal. You can do this? Seeing this scene, Eric was dumbfounded. He suddenly felt that he was very stupid. Hello, Sebastian. Liu walked to the metal ball with a smile. He reached out and took a strand of Sebastian's hair. Then he turned and pulled Eric and his mother up, waving at Sebastian. Goodbye, Sebastian. Chapter 1463. Sargeras, why don't you kill him? Eric and Liu ran out of the concentration camp and asked Liu with a puzzled look. His power is to absorb and release energy. I can't kill him for the time being, and I can't trap him for long. There were many ways to kill Sebastian, such as suffocation, poison gas, or psychic powers. Even after trapping him, he could directly put him into the resource warehouse and kill him instantly. However, Sebastian was still useful. After Liu left a backup plan, he no longer cared about him. Run. Get out of here. Since he didn't intend to kill Sebastian, trapping him with the metal ball wouldn't last long. As long as he kept absorbing and releasing energy, the metal ball would soon explode. Liu and Eric drove the metal ball together and rushed into the sky with Eric's mother. They flew all the way and escaped from the concentration camp. Sure enough, the power from genes is like an arm, completely instinctive. Using this power only consumes physical strength. The ability to not be limited by the law of conservation of energy was really convenient. After flying for 3 days, Liu and Eric left Europe and came to England. Eric, Sebastian shouldn't be able to find this place. Hide your power and live here. Making banknotes was a piece of cake for Liu. He casually handed Eric a backpack of pounds, enough for Eric and his mother to live for several lifetimes. Thank you, Sargeras. Eric wasn't a shy person. He reached out and took the backpack from Liu and nodded to Liu. We'll live here from now on. Thank you, child. Eric's mother thanked Liu and then took Eric into a small town in the English countryside. Eric and his mother were both Jewish, so they wouldn't have any trouble living in England. Liu waved goodbye and then planned to find Charles. Charles is an American, not in England? Liu suddenly realized that he remembered wrongly where Charles lived. I only remember that he was a professor at Oxford University and forgot that he was still in America. Shrugging his shoulders, Liu smiled and shook his head. Forget it. Charles is still a kid anyway. It's the same to find him later. Taking advantage of the night, Liu used his magnetic ability to drive the metal and flew out to London. He threw out a few bills and found a hotel in London to stay. Collected a hair of Sebastian. System, have you analyzed Sebastian's ability? Lying in the bathtub and taking a hot bath, Liu asked the system. Energy absorption and release ability. Fusion. Sebastian's energy absorption and release ability was still very valuable. After obtaining this ability, not only did this clone's survivability soar, it also analyzed another set of X genes. Ugh! Lying in the bathtub, Liu groaned again. Gene fusion, cell destruction, and rebirth. The intense pain made Liu feel unbearable. It's more painful than the first fusion. The second fusion with the X gene is even more difficult and painful. Wisps of blood emerged from the pores. When the gene fusion was completed, the water in the bathtub turned blood red. Huff! With a long sigh, Liu stood up, turned on the faucet, and the scalding hot water poured down. The heat energy is completely absorbed by the body. There is no hot feeling at all. It has completely turned into cold water. The impact of the water flow is also gone. The kinetic energy has been absorbed. Liu's heart was full of helplessness, and then he gloated. Kinetic energy absorption, heat absorption, all the energy was absorbed. Then, Sebastian definitely didn't have a girlfriend. Imagine hot cherry lips kissing, and then all the energy was absorbed. He couldn't feel the temperature, couldn't feel the touch, and couldn't feel anything at all. Thinking a little more, thinking a little deeper, except for Sebastian himself, he couldn't feel anything when others touched him. After the kinetic energy was absorbed, he couldn't feel anything at all. Haha, Sebastian, you are a master, Liu. Liu seemed to have discovered the truth and couldn't help but laugh out loud. System, quickly adjust the energy absorption ability for me. Any energy that can't cause me harm, I don't need to absorb it. This was a must. Liu had no interest in becoming a master Liu. Otherwise, Liu wouldn't feel any kinetic energy from contact in the future, and similarly, he wouldn't feel the temperature. No wind, no sun, no hot bath. It completely changed his daily life. This was simply unbearable. An invisible wave swept past, and Liu optimized the energy absorption ability. That's much more comfortable. The scalding hot water poured down, and after absorbing too much heat, there was only a constant 40 degrees of hot water left. It was very comfortable. After the shower, Liu looked in the mirror and saw the appearance of this new avatar for the first time. Sargeras wasn't a Titan yet, just a little boy of Nordic descent. He was about 7 years old, with a head of light blonde hair, red lips, white teeth, and fair and delicate skin. He was a cute boy. Well, it's shameful to act cute and young. Liu smiled and shook his head, put on his clothes, and walked out of the bathroom. Lying on the hotel bed, Liu began to think about his plan in this world. Study the X gene and figure out the essence of gene evolution. This is the first mission. Secondly, find Charles, study the psionic arcana, and see if it can inspire my third step of chaos. This was the key mission. As for the rest, he could do whatever he wanted. Studying the X gene requires a variety of samples. To collect the gene samples of mutants, it is necessary to establish a mutant organization. Thinking of this, Liu couldn't help but laugh. Sebastian, it seems that it is necessary for you to establish an organization. Sebastian and the White Queen's Hellfire, Magneto's Brotherhood, and Charles's X-Men, the three future mutant organizations, had not been born yet. Liu felt that it was necessary for Sebastian to establish the Hellfire organization in advance. Getting up from the bed, Liu walked to the window and looked in the direction of Germany. Sebastian, your opportunity has arrived. He reached out and grabbed an apple from the fruit plate placed in the guest room. He waved his hand and threw the apple out. With a flash of light, the system collected the apple and teleported to Sebastian's side through the positioning Mark left on him. You haven't found them? You haven't found any news of those two kids? Trash. All of them are trash. In the concentration camp, Sebastian slammed his hand on the desk and pointed at the few officers in front of him and shouted. Hum! The space trembled, and a red apple suddenly appeared above Sebastian's head and hit his head with a bang. Bastard, whom? Sebastian was about to get angry when his body suddenly trembled, and a strange song sounded in his mind. You are my little apple. Chapter 1464. What the hell is this? Sebastian felt like his brain was about to explode. Before he was about to go crazy, the song finally ended. The apple of Eden? The treasure of the Creator? The apple that hit his head broke, but an apple appeared in Sebastian's mind. The legendary apple of Eden that brings wisdom to humans? And God is also a mutant? The real power of this apple is to absorb, strengthen, and bestow mutant genes? Feeling the information in his mind, Sebastian laughed out loud. The future is in my hands. The apple of Eden was not a real apple, but the apple in Sebastian's mind. Humans were not created by God. God was the first mutant, and he became a god. He was lonely, and he wanted to find his own kind. So, he consumed a lot of power to create the apple of Eden. Adam and Eve got the apple, and Newton got the apple, but they didn't activate the apple's real power. Only mutants can get the real power of the apple of Eden. Sebastian accepted the message from the apple of Eden, as if he understood the truth, as if he was in control of fate. I will become the new creator. I will create a new world. The era of mutants has arrived. Opening his arms, Sebastian seemed to be embracing the whole world. You think too much. Liu smiled and shook his head. The absorption function is to let you collect mutant genes for me. The strengthen is to give you some benefits. As for the bestow mutant genes, that's just a beautiful blueprint. It's to keep you in suspense. The function of absorbing mutant genes was opened, making it convenient for Sebastian to collect gene samples for Liu. As for the function of bestow mutant genes, the activation conditions, let Sebastian figure it out himself. Anyway, the condition for opening the bestow function was Liu's permission. It might be possible for Liu to allow him to open the bestow function. Sebastian, I've been a great help to you. The strengthen function can let you get rid of the fate of Master Liu. Now that I've paid you, you have to work for me. Liu smiled and turned to lie back on the bed. Now it's time to enjoy life. He made some money, got an identity, and bought a house outside London. Liu leisurely played the role of a young master. With Sebastian working hard to collect mutant genes, he didn't have to run around by himself. More importantly, Liu's main target, Charles, was still a little kid with no life experience and no enlightenment, which was of no help to Li Yu's third step of chaos. So he could only wait. Good times always pass quickly. In the blink of an eye, 20 years had passed. Sargeras, look, what do you think of my paper? The Sargeras Manor, on the outskirts of the manor, on the outskirts. Sargeras, who was already in his 20s, was lying lazily on a deck chair by the pool, sipping wine from his glass. To Sargerdo say, Sarto Sardo say, to say Sebastian to hell, Sara. Hey, Sargeras, stop looking at beautiful women. Listen to me carefully. A brown-haired young man raised his leg and kicked at Sargeras. What? Li Yu came back to his senses and turned to look at the brown-haired young man. Paper. My paper. Bastard. The brown-haired young man held up a folder and roared at Li Yu. Paper. Okay. Li Yu shook his head helplessly. Charles, you're talking to me about a paper at such a wonderful moment? Don't you feel disappointed? Look, Raven is more attractive than your paper. Ha ha. I'll take it as a compliment. Raven, who was swimming in the pool, let out a peal of bell-like laughter. She waved her hand, causing a splash of water that splashed Charles's folder and Li Yu's body. Raven. Charles saw the messy folder in his hand and roared angrily. I can't read it now. Li Yu shrugged his shoulders and raised his glass to Charles. Brother, don't worry about the paper. Enjoy life. I can't read it, but it's the same if I tell you. Charles threw away the folder in his hand and sat beside Li Yu. Neanderthals. Okay, brother, I've read your paper. Really, Homo sapiens replacing Neanderthals is inevitable. I'm already very clear. Your paper is very well written. Li Yu smiled and shook his head. Homo sapiens replacing Neanderthals is inevitable. Charles helplessly looked at Li Yu and pointed at himself, and then at Li Yu and Raven. Don't you think that our existence is very similar to Homo sapiens replacing Neanderthals? Evolution? Isn't this a very normal natural phenomenon? We should be glad that we're not the ones being replaced. Li Yu shrugged and took a sip from his glass. Brother, my wine is good. Don't you want to try it? But have you thought about it? The current humans will be replaced and eliminated. Then war is inevitable. We must stop all of this. Charles raised his fist like a revolutionary fighter, his face impassioned. Okay, you want to stop the laws of nature? You want to stop evolution? You're not God. Li Yu smiled and shook his head. The power of mutants is far beyond that of ordinary humans. Humans are a selfish and cruel race. There's an old saying in the East, those who are not of my race must have a different heart. Fear, rejection, estrangement. And in the end, confrontation is inevitable. I know. Charles lowered his head dejectedly, but war will bring destruction and harm. I don't want to see that. Okay, if this is your ideal, I can help you. Li Yu turned to look at Charles. Peaceful, gentle evolution, replacement, and elimination, this is only an ideal state. But if that's what you want to do, I can help. Although this is obviously an impossible task. Thank you. Sargeras. Charles raised his head and smiled at Li Yu. With you joining us, we will succeed. Your power is very strong, stronger than all of the mutants. The ability to copy is simply a cheat-like power. Yes, Li Yu showed his copy ability in front of Charles and Raven. He had Charles's psionic ability, Raven's transformation ability, Magneto's magnetic control, and Sebastian's energy absorption. The currently used abilities were unimaginably powerful. Trouble is coming. At this time, Li Yu and Charles raised their heads at the same time and looked outside the door. There stood a beautiful and capable woman, a CIA agent from the United States. Chapter 1465. Mike Gretel. The beautiful and capable woman smiled as she walked to the side of the pool. She nodded at Li Yu and the other two. I hope my arrival didn't disturb you. I want to deduct the butler's salary. Although the arrival of a beauty is delightful, but I obviously didn't invite you, Miss Gretel. Li Yu picked up the wine glass and gently swirled it. The dark red wine swirled in the glass, emitting a refreshing aroma. Your butler is very competent, Mr. Sargeras. Gretel took out a document and waved it in front of Liu. Obviously, I was able to come in because your butler recognized this document. Wow, the CIA. Liu pursed his lips and turned to look at Charles. He waved his hand as if he was showing off. See that? Charles, this is an era where looks matter. My handsome appearance has already alerted the CIA. Ha! Charles laughed loudly. Sargeras, it's your thick skin that alerted the CIA. Raven climbed out of the pool and sat beside Liu with a towel wrapped around her. Although you are indeed very handsome, but I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you, Mr. Sargeras. I'm here for Charles. Gretel turned to look at Charles. Nice to meet you, Charles Francis Xavier, Professor of Genetics and Genetics. I'm from the CIA, and I need your help. Sargeras, you've lost to Charles in terms of charm. Raven snatched the wine glass from Liu's hand and downed the wine in one gulp. She smiled strangely at Liu. A man's charm lies in his inner qualities, not his appearance. Charles raised his head at Liu and stood up from the recliner. This world doesn't look at looks, it looks at talent. That's because you have nothing to show other than talent. Liu shrugged and taunted Charles. I don't talk to superficial people. Charles glared fiercely at Liu and shook hands with Gretel. Miss Gretel, let's talk over there, away from these superficial people. As you wish. Gretel reached out and grabbed Charles's arm as if she was attending a banquet and walked out gracefully. Raven, our trouble is here. Liu turned to look at Raven. His face became serious. The CIA is in trouble from the mutants. Charles, for his gentle ideals, will definitely get involved in this trouble. Mutants? Are there other mutants? I thought it was just us. Win's expression was pleasantly surprised and excited, eager to give it a try. Okay. Liu facepalmed. Even without Charles, you will be involved. Isn't it good news that we still have our own kind, that we are not alone? Win didn't understand Liu's worries. Not all people of the same kind are friends. There could be murder and war between humans. Do you think there's no murder and no war between mutants? Liu was speechless at Raven's naivety. War? War? That's great. Raven's eyes became more excited. He was a warmonger. Liu could only turn his head and continue drinking. In the villa's living room. Charles took out a bottle of red wine from Liu's wine cabinet and poured a glass for Gretel. Sargeras, although unreliable, his wine is good. Bordeaux wine, try it. Thank you. Gretel picked up her glass and took a sip. She then went straight to the point. Professor Xavier, what do you think about genetic mutations? Genetic mutation? This is my specialty. Charles picked up his wine glass and swirled it as he began to hang his bag. The appearance of Homo sapiens was a genetic mutation for the Neanderthals. Or evolution. Neanderthals. Charles, I've read your paper. Gretel put down the wine glass and looked at Charles with a serious face. Professor, do you think now, in our era, there's a possibility of genetic mutation? Is there a possibility of genetic mutation in humans? Of course. Charles nodded with certainty. Of course there is. Genetic mutation has always existed. For example, you, Miss Gretel. Your amber eyes are a genetic mutation. Okay. Gretel froze for a moment and shook her head helplessly. Professor, can you keep a secret? Of course. Charles nodded quickly. Then, Gretel took out a stack of information from her bag and handed it to Charles. Professor, you should take a look at this. It was a photo. In the photo, a woman was standing elegantly on the sofa. Her body was crystal clear, as if she was made of diamonds. What is this? A crystal statue? Charles looked at Gretel in confusion. The carving is good. Which master made this? God. This is God's work. Gretel looked at Charles with a serious face and said seriously. Charles froze for a moment. You mean? Yes. Charles, this is a person. A living person. A woman who can turn her body into diamonds. Gretel crossed her arms and looked at Charles. So, this is the reason why I came to find you. Professor of Genetics and Genetics, Sir Charles. This is unbelievable. Charles was shocked and surprised. So, there were so many of his kind in this world. This was too wonderful. My Lord Charles was very restrained with his ability. Unless it was necessary, he would never take the initiative to use his mind ability to check other people's memories. Seeing Gretel's information, Charles was shocked and surprised. He was very interested in this matter. Professor Charles, I hope to get your help. Gretel invited Charles to join the team again to investigate the truth. Of course, I will join. Also, I will let Sargeras and Raven join as well. Charles said happily. Sargeras and Raven? Gretel heard Charles's words and looked helpless. Professor, I'm from the CIA. This is not a place for playboys to have parties. You brought Sargeras, that playboy, and Raven, that flower vase beauty, in, aren't you joking? Oh, I forgot to tell you. Sargeras' research on genetics is no longer under mine. My thesis was actually developed by me and Sargeras together. As for Raven, she's also a genetics expert. Charles seriously introduced Sargeras and Raven's achievements. However, Gretel's mouth twitched. Professor, your words are very hard to believe. Genes are made up of 23 pairs of chromosomes and are essentially deoxyribonucleic acid. Liu held Raven's arm and walked into the living room. Although I am not interested in your matters, you can't doubt my knowledge. Really an expert? A room full of experts? Hearing Liu's series of profound words, Gretel was stunned. Chapter 1466. Gretel was very happy. She thought she could only find Charles, a genetics expert, but she didn't expect to find a room full of experts. So, Charles, Liu, and Raven followed Agent Gretel to board the plane and set foot on America. Charles, from now on, the three of you are all consultants of the CIA. They came to the CIA building and walked into an office. Gretel took out 3 documents and handed them to Liu and the other 2. Okay, this consultant, is there a salary? Liu picked up the documents and looked at them, then smiled at Gretel. Don't mess around. Sargeras, even if there is a salary, it can't compare to the price of a bottle of wine. Raven picked up the documents and looked at them. When she saw her photo on the documents, she curled her lips. Can I beat up this photographer? He made my photo look so ugly. Huh, I want to beat him up too. Gretel seemed to feel the same way as Raven. That photographer's technique is too bad. The photo he took of me looks like I'm 20 years older. Okay, everyone. At this time, a big fat man walked into the office. I'm the supervisor, Demont. It's time to start work. A document was handed to Liu and the other 2. Supervisor Demont said to everyone, Everyone, this is a major task that involves the survival of the world. We suspect that a group of mutants is trying to start a nuclear war. With both hands on the desk, Demond raised his eyes and glanced at everyone. With a serious face, he said, Now, gentlemen, find out their weaknesses for me. Find out the reason for their mutation. Your job is to save the world. We will do our best. The righteous Charles, who always had a sense of mission to save the world, answered passionately. Thank you. Demond nodded and turned to leave the office. Deploy nuclear missiles in Turkey? My God, who suggested this? Pull him over and shoot him. After flipping through the documents, Charles screamed in surprise. Deploying nuclear missiles in Turkey is equivalent to stabbing a dagger in the back of a polar bear. The polar bear will go crazy. Liu laughed gloatingly. In fact, the polar bear has gone crazy. Gretel sighed helplessly. I heard that the polar bears are discussing the possibility of placing a nuclear bomb in Cuba. Wow, then it's over. Liu made an explosion gesture. Bang! The world is destroyed. This is the work of a group of mutants. We have to find them and stop them. Gentlemen, we know nothing about mutants. Now, we need genetic experts like you to give us your opinions. Gretel looked at Liu and the other 2 expectantly. Give an opinion? No. In fact, there's a better way. Charles smiled and stood up. Only mutants can fight against mutants. Huh. Gretel was stunned for a moment, and then she looked at Charles in shock. Just now, the voice in my head. As you can see, I am also a mutant. Charles looked at Gretel with a smile. Charles, you must be crazy. Raven shook her head helplessly. Her body flashed with a blue light and turned into her true appearance with blue skin. Charles, if this is your choice, I will stand with you, my brother. Liu smiled and reached out. A metal falcon statue on Gretel's table slowly floated in the air. Oh, the cake seller. Gretel covered her mouth and didn't come back to her senses for a long time. The CIA reacted quickly. After learning that Charles, Liu, and Raven were mutants, they quickly set up an emergency operation team. In the face of a nuclear war, even if Liu and the other two were mutants, no one cared. Only mutants can fight against mutants. Charles's words were interpreted by the CIA as using the mutants to kill the mutants. At this time, Liu and the other two had become a weapon to fight against the crisis. Charles, I have confirmed that the NATO frontline commander, Colonel Henkley, has dealings with mutants. This evening, Colonel Henkley will meet with the mutants. A few days later, in Gretel's office, Gretel reported the situation to Charles, Liu, and the others. So should we move? Liu smiled and stood up. I am very curious about those mutants. I can finally see them. One can turn into a diamond, one has an ability similar to teleportation, and one can control airflow. You have to be careful. Don't be careless. Gretel reminded Liu and the other two, then continued. I will bring a team of agents to support you. Nightfall. A rainstorm swept through New York Harbor. In the rain, a cruise ship sailed to the harbor. The flickering lights were like a little twinkling starlight. I feel it, it's them. Charles pressed his temple, launched his psionic ability, and found the target. On the cruise ship heading to the port, there were the mutated humans he was looking for. Suddenly, Charles was already screaming in pain. His face was pale, and he squatted down holding his head. Charles, how are you? Raven quickly ran to Charles and helped him up. I'm fine. We are exposed. They also have a psionic ability user. Charles quickly reported the situation. Move. Since they were exposed, Gretel made a prompt decision and ordered the attack without hesitation. Rumble. Assault boats flew up, and a group of armed soldiers rowed the assault boats and rushed toward the cruise ship in front. This is the Coast Guard. The ship in front. Stop immediately. Stop the ship immediately. On the assault boat, a loud shout came from the loudspeaker. Boom. At this time, a loud noise suddenly exploded on the cruise ship. A huge anchor chain broke out of the water like an angry dragon and rushed toward the cruise ship. On the winding chain stood a tall and straight figure. Sebastian, it's time to settle our old scores. The whistling transmission anchor chain was like a giant python, tightly wrapped around the cruise ship, and the huge force twisted the cruise ship. Eric, you disappoint me. On the cruise ship, a white figure raised his arm and slammed it toward the figure standing on the anchor chain. Boom! The rotating anchor chain shook violently, and Eric was sent flying far away. Do you still not understand my goal? Do you still not understand my dream? Eric, everything I've done is for justice. For the future of the mutants. I'm not afraid of any challenge. Sebastian roared angrily. Not afraid of any challenge? Then, as you wish. Liu's figure came whistling, and with a press of his hand, a huge magnetic storm swept out and pressed toward the cruise ship. Creak! The huge cruise ship was like plasticine, and it was crushed into a ball. Sargeras! Seeing this figure, Eric and Sebastian exclaimed in unison. Chapter 1467. Hi, Eric, my brother. Long time no see. Liu landed beside Eric and patted his shoulder. It's really nice to see you again. Sargeras, help me kill Sebastian. Eric didn't have time to exchange pleasantries with Liu. He activated the anchor chain and smashed it at Sebastian. Child, it's been so long. Haven't you realized the truth yet? Your attack is meaningless to me. Even though the chain hit him, Sebastian didn't lose a single hair on his body. His ability to absorb energy allowed him to absorb all the kinetic energy of the attack. It couldn't hurt him at all. More importantly, Liu couldn't kill Sebastian. The apple of Eden was still in Sebastian's mind. Sargeras, be careful. Charles's voice sounded in Liu's mind. Whoosh! A man with red skin and a demon-like appearance instantly appeared behind Liu and stabbed a long sword at Liu. Sneak an attack on me? Liu sneered. He turned around and grabbed the long sword that Red Devil stabbed out. You. Red Devil saw that Liu grabbed the long sword, but didn't even scratch the skin on his palm. How could he not know that he kicked an iron plate? With a whoosh, Red Devil disappeared instantly. He didn't even want the long sword and fled back to Sebastian's side. Da-da-da. At this time, the soldiers on the assault boat finally reached the firing range. They fired at Sebastian and the others on the cruise ship. Unfortunately, the bullet attack was ineffective against Sebastian. It was also ineffective against the White Queen who had turned into a diamond. Storm. Whirlwind hid behind Sebastian and released a tornado storm that overturned all the assault boats. In front of the mutants, ordinary people's attacks were very weak. Catch them. Sargeras Charles, catch them. Gretel's hysterical roar sounded from the communicator. Sebastian, I'm not done with you. Eric drove the chain and chased after Sebastian to beat him up. He didn't care that his attack was ineffective against Sebastian. As if he was venting his anger, he beat him violently. You're too rude. Queen White, who couldn't stand it anymore, glared at Eric and sent a spiritual attack at him. Hey, why are you interfering? Liu turned around and looked at Bai King. He released a spirit shield to help Eric block Bai King's attack. You. The White Queen looked at Liu in shock. Your ability, is it strange? You can create diamonds, and you also have a psychic ability. It's not strange that I have several abilities. Liu shrugged, raised the long sword he had taken from Red Devil, and pointed it at the people on the wreckage of the cruise ship. Surrender, you? The enraged Red Devil teleported in front of Liu, pulled out a long saber, and viciously slashed down at Liu. Go back. He swung the saber and heavily slashed at Red Devil's long saber. There was a violent impact, and Red Devil was sent flying backward, staggered, and landed on the wreckage of the cruise ship. Storm. Whirlwind pushed with both hands, and a tornado roared out, crashing toward Liu. Wind Slayer. Liu roared, holding the long saber with both hands, and facing the roaring storm. He slashed down. With a swoosh, the sharp saber slashed through the storm. Then, the storm dissipated without a sound. It was as if Liu's saber had destroyed the storm. What ability is this? Seeing the power of Liu's saber, Whirlwind was completely stunned. Wind Slayer's sword. Liu pretended to raise the long saber, his face full of pride. In fact, wasn't it just the ability to absorb energy? After absorbing all the kinetic energy of the storm, it calmed down. Sargeras, let's work together and use our spiritual power to break that Diamond Man's spiritual defense, control them all, and capture them. Charles did not have close combat ability, so he could only use spiritual control from a distance. However, the White Queen's spiritual defense had been interfering and blocking Charles's power, making him unable to control Red Devil and Whirlwind. As for Sebastian, he was wearing a helmet. It completely isolated his spiritual power. Okay, Liu agreed. Then, together with Charles, he cast Spirit Shock. Boom! The violent impact of the spiritual storm caused the surrounding air to explode. PFFF. The White Queen spat out a mouthful of blood from the impact of the spiritual shock cast by Liu and Charles. Sebastian, unable to withstand the spiritual shock, the White Queen hurriedly shouted at Sebastian. Retreat. After sending Eric flying with a slap, Sebastian rushed to the White Queen's side and pulled Red Devil's hand. With a swoosh, the four of them disappeared instantly. Bastard! Sebastian, I will find you. We are not finished. Eric rushed out of the water, raised his fist, and roared angrily. We didn't catch them. They ran away. Liu shrugged and said through the communication device. In fact, why would Liu catch Sebastian? The Apple of Eden was still in Sebastian's mind, and this Hellfire Club had long been Liu's. Okay, there's no way to stop them from teleporting away. Charles shook his head helplessly and smiled bitterly at the livid Gretel. So, we need more mutants. Gretel's eyes were firm. Charles, I need you to find more mutants. We need more power, or else this world will fall into a nuclear war crisis. I'll do my best. Charles nodded, then looked at Liu and Eric, who were near the wreckage of the cruise ship, and smiled. I think I found one. Beside the cruise ship wreckage. Why are you still entangled with Sebastian? Liu turned his head and glanced at Eric. He was a little surprised by the conflict between Eric and Sebastian. That year, Liu and Eric escaped from the concentration camp with Eric's mother. Eric and Sebastian didn't have a grudge against each other, so there shouldn't be a need to fight to the death, right? He killed a lot of people. He killed a lot of Jews. I'll avenge them. Eric's face was full of hatred, and he clenched his fists tightly. Sebastian isn't the culprit, right? Isn't your enemy Hitler? Liu didn't quite understand Eric's ethnic hatred. The problem is that Hitler is dead. The other culprits are all dead. Eric clenched his fists. If I don't find Sebastian for revenge, who else can I find? Okay, as long as you're happy. Liu felt that this might be plot inertia. Even if Sebastian died in Eric's hands in the end, it didn't matter. It didn't matter who the Apple of Eden was given to. Anyway, Liu didn't like Sebastian's nuclear bomb plan very much. Chapter 1468. Let me introduce you to a new friend. Liu brought Eric back to the dock and introduced Eric to Charles and the others. Eric Lancher, my brother, my friend. We lived in the same prison when we were in the concentration camp. Wow, Sargeras, you were in a concentration camp? That's interesting. Raven walked up with a face full of surprise. Miss, the concentration camp has nothing to do with being interesting. Eric looked like a cool guy as he stared at Raven with a straight face. Sorry, Raven is still a child. She doesn't understand the misery and pain of the concentration camp. Charles walked up with an apologetic face and reached out to shake Eric's hand. Welcome, my companion. My name is Charles. Sorry, I was rude. Raven also knew that her joke was a bit too much and quickly apologized to Eric. You're Eric? I'm Raven. Is your ability to control metal? That's cool. Magnetic control. His nickname is Magneto. Liu reached out and pulled everyone together. We're all family. Yes, family. Everyone laughed. Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt your reunion after a long separation, but we don't have time. Gretel looked at everyone with a serious face. The enemy hasn't been caught, and the crisis hasn't been resolved. We have to get to work immediately. Okay, you're the boss. You have the final say. Liu shrugged and let go of his arm. Let's go. Eric must know more about Sebastian and the others. This information should be very important. A moment later, everyone returned to the CIA station. In the office, Eric introduced Sebastian and the others to everyone. Sebastian Shawn, an SS officer, a racist, a notorious executioner. His ability is to absorb and release energy. Known physical and energy attacks are ineffective against him. White Queen Emma. Her ability is telekinesis and diamond form. When in diamond form, she can block most attacks. Her telekinesis is also very powerful. Red Devil. Red skin, looks like a demon. Has the ability to teleport. Whirlwind can release the power of a storm. On the slide, there were photos of Sebastian and the others. Eric explained one by one. Over the years, Sebastian has established an organization called the Hellfire Club. In addition to these mutated humans, I suspect that they have recruited more mutated humans. So, our enemy is much stronger than we thought. Gretel rubbed her eyebrows. Is Sebastian's energy absorption and control invincible? Do we have any way to deal with him? Eric shook his head helplessly. At least I can't do anything to him. I tried to use my mind power to control him, but my mind power was blocked. It didn't work on him. Charles was shaking his head too. Don't look at me. My ability is to transform, and I can only transform myself. Raven raised her hands in surrender. There has never been an invincible power. Liu knocked on the table and said with a smile, Charles, Sebastian was able to block your spiritual power because of his helmet. He's not as strong as you think. Turning to look at Eric, Liu continued. Eric, do you remember how I dealt with Sebastian? Imprison him. Then poison, suffocation, mental attack. There are plenty of ways to deal with him. Imprison? Gretel nodded. That's a good idea. However, since the enemy has the Hellfire Club, we also need a strong team of mutated humans. We will find more companions. Charles nodded and pointed to his head. My mind power can sense the existence of mutated humans. I will find them. Everyone's office needs to be changed. Gretel shrugged and said helplessly, some people in the CIB feel that it's too stressful to work in the same place as mutated humans. Okay. Charles shook his head helplessly. Eric, Raven, and evenly you didn't look good. Damn it. We are helping them. We are not monsters. Rue, when angrily stomped her feet as she left the CIA building. In fact, in their eyes, we are monsters. Eric shrugged. Over the years, I have heard a lot of monikers. Okay, calm down. It takes a while for people to accept a new thing. Charles tried to persuade them. The problem now is, where is our office? Do we need to rent a place ourselves? Liu turned to look at Gretel. It's fine if we don't get paid, but if we rent a place ourselves, are we selflessly contributing? Of course not. A car stopped in front of everyone, and the slightly chubby director, Demond, walked out of the car. Gentlemen, the office has been arranged. Get in the car. They got in the car and drove to the suburbs. Everyone came to a building, the basement. Basement? Director Demond, are you sure you didn't find such a place to save rent? Liu looked at the empty basement and shook his head with a smile. Of course not. Demond walked to a wall and pressed it. A fingerprint lock popped up. After verifying the fingerprint and pupil, the wall slowly opened. Okay, this place is not bad. An underground research institute. Although the cold style made people feel a little lonely, this place was not bad. Everyone, you can stay here for the time being. If you need anything, tell my assistant. De Munster led everyone into a hall and called out, Hank, come here for a moment. Coming. A tall and thin young man walked out from the back of the hall. This is Hank, my assistant. He will help you settle down and let you find other mutated humans as soon as possible to form a team of mutated humans. De Munster introduced to everyone. Find mutated humans? Didn't you already find one? Raven pointed at Hank with a face full of surprise. You are Hank? What is your ability? Mansk and Hank were dumbfounded. Welcome, my companion. Raven revealed her original form, revealing her original form with blue skin. A coin in Eric's hand floated and spun, and Charles's voice entered Hank's mind. As for Liu, he flicked a coin and floated into the air. You all of you? Hank's face was full of shock, and then he quickly took off his shoes, revealing his palm-like feet. Yo! With a whistling sound, Hank used his hands and feet and quickly jumped up the wall. His feet grabbed the blades of the ceiling fan and hung upside down. Chapter 1469. We need to find more mutants. In the underground office, everyone gathered. Charles pointed to his head. The coverage of my mental power is not enough. I need to amplify my brainwaves to find more companions. Brainwave amplifier? Hank stood up with a smile. Everyone, let me introduce myself. I graduated from MIT with a double doctorate in mechanical and electrical engineering and automatic control. Charles needs the instrument, and I happen to have a research project. Wow, shouldn't beasts have developed limbs? Are you showing off your IQ? Raven looked at Hank with a shocked face. It made Hank, a technical geek, blush, not sure if it was because of the beauty or because of the praise. Let's go and see Hank's results. Everyone was very interested in the brainwave amplifier that Hank mentioned. When the elevator rose to the ground, a 10-meter-tall, spherical building stood on the grassy ground. This is the result of my research on brainwave control equipment. I originally wanted to make a brainwave amplifier to remotely control a fighter jet, but ordinary people's brainwaves can't activate this instrument. Climbing up the sphere from the gangway, Hank opened the hatch on the sphere and entered the sphere space. There were densely packed wires and electrodes all around, and the walls were full of various indicator lights. In the middle, there was a seat. Above the seat, there was a helmet connected to countless wires. I suddenly have a bad feeling. Charles sat on the seat and watched Hank connect various wires and control various switches. He looked at everyone with a bitter smile. Charles, the effect is better if you shave your head. After Hank finished his preparations, he picked up the helmet and walked to Charles's side, making a serious suggestion. No, never. I hate bald heads. Charles refused to comply. You're still young. You'll understand in the future that a bald head is your best hairstyle. Liu smiled and walked up, putting his hand on Charles's back. Hank put the helmet on him. Let's work together and activate our mental power. You have mental power too? Hank looked at Liu in surprise. Sargeras, don't you have the same magnetic control ability as Eric? No. His ability is very strange. His ability is to copy the abilities of other mutants. Charles told him about Liu's ability. No wonder you were able to awaken the ability to control magnetism when you were locked up in a concentration camp with me. So that's the case. Eric was suddenly enlightened. Sargeras, so you copied my ability back then. And here I thought we were born brothers. So that's the case. Eric, we're brothers. Liu smiled at Eric. Yes, we are all brothers. Eric smiled and nodded. We mutants are all brothers. Now, let's find more brothers. Charles took the helmet and put it on. Get ready, Charles. I'm going to activate the device. Hank walked to the control panel and pressed the start button. Now, tisk tisk, streaks of electric arcs jumped on the ball, and loud buzzing sounds of electric currents could be heard. Liu channeled his spirit force into Charles's power. An intense rumbling sound rang out in his mind as a stretch of resplendent starry sky appeared before their eyes. That was the radiance of life. That was the radiance of the soul. The radiance of life and soul was dazzling. Billions of stars shone as if it was a bright galaxy. Most of them were white radiance, which was ordinary humans. There was also a small portion of red radiance, which was the mutants. Pain, fear, sadness, loneliness. My companions, I will find you. We will build a warm home, a home for mutants. Charles felt the pain, fear, and loneliness in the mutants' hearts, and 2 streams of tears rolled down from his eyes. Is this how Charles got his Spirit Dominator title? At this moment, Liu felt the emotions in the hearts of all the mutants together with Charles and had a clearer understanding of Charles's power. I can empathize with you. Charles's spirit force could completely feel everything in the other party's heart when it came into contact with anyone. Sadness, pain, despair, fear, the 7 emotions and 6 desires, happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy. Charles could feel everything in the other party's heart. No wonder Charles's spirit is so strong. No wonder Charles's soul is so pure and firm. Liu suddenly felt that he came to the X-Men world and found Charles. He really came to the right place. As long as he let go of his spirit force, he could be impacted by endless emotions, desires, and distracting thoughts at all times. After this kind of exercise, he could still maintain the purity of his soul and keep himself from being eroded. Charles's spirit force was far worse than Liu in terms of quantity, but in terms of emotion, he was better. Of course, this was the future bald guy. The current Charles was still very young. So, I have found the direction. Through the empathy feature, Liu could feel the emotions and thoughts in the hearts of billions of people in the world in his mind. Legend has it that Buddha achieved enlightenment in a dream. A golden millet dream is to experience a life. Through this empathy ability, I can also experience the lives of billions of people. At this moment, Liu was suddenly enlightened. He had found the direction to retain his memories and emotions after stepping into the 3rd step of chaos. The Lord God world. Liu's main body sat in the void and slowly opened his eyes. I feel the same way. I've experienced countless lives. This is indeed a direction. Experiencing the mortal world but not hiding one's true heart. Under the impact of endless mortal desires and endless distracting thoughts of all living beings, one could still maintain one's true as a movable heart, untainted by the mortal world, and not hide one's true heart. Then after this kind of tempering, one's true heart might be able to maintain one's true heart when deifying chaos. Just do it. At this moment, countless rays of light rushed out of Liu's main body. Streams of light broke through the void and penetrated the myriad worlds. Billions of avatars. This was a unique ability that Liu had improved from the ink stream avatar technique. Following the traces left behind by Liu in the myriad worlds, the avatars traced the location of the system host and fell into the myriad worlds, shrouding the heavens, Do, Pu, Sun God, Mortal, Renegade, Immortal. Every world that Liu had stepped into sent out an avatar. Without interfering with anything, without taking any action, the avatar sneaked into the void and released the power of the spirit. According to Charles's mental ability, the avatar used the empathy method to silently sneak into the hearts of all living beings. Free embodiment heavenly demon. This action of mine is somewhat similar to free embodiment heavenly demon, using the distracting thoughts and desires of all living beings as fire to temper the spirit. The golden body would be indestructible and eternal. Chapter 1470. Tempering the soul with the desires of all living beings is not something that can be done in a day or two. His main body was tempering his soul, and so was Sargeras. Experiencing the feeling of empathy from Charles inspired Liu. He released countless avatars and sent them into the various worlds to temper his soul and experience life with the desires of all living beings. I found them. Turning off the brainwave magnifier, Charles took off his helmet and smiled. I found them. I found a lot of companions. That's great. Everyone cheered in unison. Ugh. At this moment, Liu groaned and staggered. His face was a little pale, and a layer of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Sargeras, what's wrong with you? Is it the after effect of the brainwave magnifier? Everyone cried out in alarm and hurriedly ran over to support Liu. I'm fine. I've used up too much strength. I'll be fine after some rest. Liu smiled and shook his head. It seemed that he was really fine. However, his pale face didn't look like he was fine at all. In fact, Liu was really fine. Just now, Liu just opened up his mind and accepted the distracting thoughts and desires in the hearts of billions of people in the way of empathy. Billions of memories appeared in his mind at the same time, and all of them were empathy. It was equivalent to experiencing billions of different lives at once. The terrifying mental impact almost made Liu go crazy. He was lost in the endless memories and thoughts. The soul power of this avatar is still too weak. Liu sat down on the chair and sighed inwardly. After entering the X-Men world, Liu's avatar had weakened 99% of its power. Only then did it successfully enter this world. Although its essence was strong, the lack of power still caused Liu to almost suffer a loss. It seems that I still have to train slowly. The X-Men world also had billions of people. Just now, Liu had absorbed billions of memories at once. Under the impact of the endless desires and distractions, it was already a testament to Liu's extraordinary soul that he had not lost his mind. Phew! After a short while, Liu let out a long breath and cut off the various remnant memories that lingered in his mind, and he finally came back to his senses. It's fine now. Liu stood up and looked at everyone's concerned eyes. He smiled and nodded. I'm fine now. Let's go and find our companions. Good. It's good that you're fine. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Let's go and find our companions. Las Vegas. In a brightly lit club, Charles and Eric were sitting side by side on a bed. In front of the two of them, a beautiful woman in revealing clothes walked in with a seductive look on her face. Two people? You'll have to pay more. The woman walked in and frowned when she saw Eric and Charles. Money? Is this it? Eric waved his hand, and a string of coins flew out of his pocket, whizzing through the air. Wow, cool. The beautiful woman's eyes lit up. She reached out and unbuttoned her clothes. A pair of dragonfly membrane wings appeared on her back, and she flew into the air with a swoosh. My name is Dragonfly. I thought it was just me. No, you're not alone. Charles's voice rang in Dragonfly's mind. Welcome home, Dragonfly. This is really a surprise. Dragonfly laughed happily, tears rolling down from her eyes. At the same time, in the old district of Brooklyn, in a dilapidated room, a young man wearing a mask walked into the room. The days when I can't talk are so miserable. The young man removed his mask and tore off a piece of tape from his mouth. The sharp pain of tearing off his hair made the young man cry out in pain. Boom! A violent sound wave rushed out, and the table in front of him, as well as the various items placed on it, were all shattered into pieces. Oh, damn it! It's coming again. The young man was depressed, holding his head and looking at the sky speechlessly. You just didn't control your strength well. You have to learn to control it, not escape. Suddenly, a voice rang behind the young man. Who is it? The young man turned pale with fright and hurriedly turned around to ask. Then another sound wave rushed out with a loud bang. God, I killed someone. The young man held his head and wailed in pain. He knew the destructive power of his sound wave. No matter who it was, if they were hit by this sound wave, their organs would definitely be shattered and they would die. It's not that easy to kill me. Liu smiled and waved his hand. He activated his energy absorption ability and absorbed all the energy contained in the sound wave. The huge sound wave vibrated and disappeared without a trace. You guys. The young man looked at the man and woman standing in front of him with a dazed expression. Then, he saw Raven turn into blue skin. As you can see, Soundwave, you're not alone. Liu smiled and extended his arm to Soundwave. I'm Sargeras, and this is Raven. We have many companions. Welcome home, Soundwave. Companions. That's great. Soundwave happily held Liu's hand. This is Dragonfly. This is Alex. And this is Darwin. This is Soundwave. And this is... In the underground base, everyone gathered and Charles introduced their new companions to everyone. Other than the mutated humans that appeared in the original show, Charles also found a dozen other mutated humans. Welcome home, everyone. Music, drinks. It was a party. Everyone was very enthusiastic to celebrate the addition of their new companions. Sargeras, I saw a very strange guy. Charles picked up his wine glass and walked to Liu's side. He clinked glasses with Liu. Eric and I found him in a bar. He was a very dangerous person. I only felt brutality and destruction in his heart, as if he was a ferocious beast. And then, Liu naturally knew who Charles was talking about. Other than Wolverine, who else could it be? And then, Charles smiled bitterly and shook his head. I told him that we were companions, the same kind. He replied directly, F*CKU. Ha ha. Liu laughed loudly. I know this guy. Logan. His name is Logan. A guy who can't die, but keeps looking for death and self-destruction. Sargeras, he's very dangerous. It's dangerous for everyone to let him stay out there. Charles glanced at Liu. Can you bring him back? You can easily do it yourself, right? Mind control, just bring him back. Liu put down his wine glass and looked at Charles in confusion. You and Eric can easily bring him back, right? It's easy to bring him back, but he'll develop hatred. I think the best way to convince Logan is to use your fists. Unfortunately, Eric and I are not good at using our fists. Charles smiled and shook his head. Anyway, you have energy to absorb, so you're not afraid of being beaten. You go and convince him. Charles, so you want me to be a punching bag? Liu pursed his lips. Okay, I'm also interested in Logan. Let's go and meet him. Liu was also very interested in Wolverine's super recovery ability. Not only was his lifespan very long, but he was also almost immortal, which was worth replicating. Chapter 1471. It's still necessary to meet Wolverine. After asking about Wolverine's location from Charles, Liu walked out of the underground base. After finding a secluded corner, Liu instantly disappeared without a trace with a shio sound. This was teleportation. He put the apple of Eden into Sebastian's mind, and Sebastian seriously did the gene collection task. The Red Devil's genes were also collected in the apple of Eden. So, Liu obtained the ability to teleport again. Outside a tavern, Liu's figure appeared. Reaching out and pushing open the tavern door, Liu walked into the tavern. It was a small tavern. There was no crazy heavy metal music, nor were there crazy twisting limbs. There were only a few customers in the tavern. At the bar, there was a burly man in a brown jacket. The strong man lit a thick cigar in one hand and held a bottle of brandy in the other. He took a puff and drank a mouthful of wine. It seemed that he was completely immersed in his own world and was indifferent to everything outside. "Hey, Logan." Liu walked to the bar, knocked on the bar, and greeted Wolverine. F***CKU. Logan's way of greeting was very similar to Wolverine's. He didn't care about anything and just directly scolded him. Liu raised his eyebrows, raised his fist, and smashed it heavily at Logan. Bang! A fist landed on Logan's head, sending him flying. His head crashed into the wall of the bar, shattering a row of tables and chairs. "You have to be polite, Logan. Not everyone can tolerate your bad temper." Liu crossed his arms and sneered at Wolverine, who had smashed into the corner. Wolverine roared and was furious. He jumped up from the ground and madly pounced on Liu. "Go to hell, Gigolo." He swung his fist and smashed it at Liu's head. Without dodging, Liu stood still and let Wolverine's fist hit his head. The energy absorption ability instantly absorbed the huge kinetic energy contained in Wolverine's punch. "You like to reason with your fists?" "Hee, me too." Liu chuckled, stretched out a finger, and flicked Wolverine's forehead, returning the power of Wolverine's punch to Wolverine. Pung! Logan was sent flying again. With a crazy roar, Logan's eyes were red as he roared and rushed up again. Then, he was sent flying again by a flick of a finger. Wolverine's fist that he was sent flying by Li's finger. After a few times, Wolverine turned around and ran. At this time, Wolverine's bones had yet to be transformed by adamantium. After being hit by a few heavy blows, Evans was somewhat cracked. Logan wasn't a fool. He definitely wouldn't continue fighting an enemy that he obviously couldn't defeat. "Can't beat you, think you can run?" Liu threw a stack of bills to the tavern owner, who was calling the police. The tavern owner was stunned as he rushed out of the tavern. "Hey, are you calling the police? What happened?" "Wrong number." Seeing the stack of bills in his hand, the tavern owner did not hesitate to hang up the phone. "Hey, Logan, our conversation is not over yet." Liu rushed out of the tavern and chased after Logan. Just as he reached the corner of the wall, Logan suddenly stopped. He turned around and waved his fist at Liu with a roar. 3 long bone spurs protruded from each fist. At the same time, a howl sounded behind Liu as a figure descended from the sky. Like a tiger pouncing on its prey, it pounced on Liu. It was a brawny man more than 2 meters tall. 10 2-inch-long fingernails protruded from the tip of his 10 fingers. They were like tiger claws, flashing cold light as they clawed at Liu's head. Wolverine, saber-toothed tiger. The 2 brothers had set up an ambush for Liu. Attacking from the front and back, they were going all out. "Watch my divine dragon swings its tail." He turned around and kicked out, sending the saber-toothed tiger flying backward. "Watch my black tiger steals heart." While kicking the saber-toothed tiger, Liu took advantage of the momentum of the turn and threw a punch. It landed heavily on Logan's chest and sent Wolverine flying as well. Logan run. If the 2 of them could not beat him together, what was the point of fighting? The saber-toothed tiger roared at Logan, turned around, and ran. His figure leaped, and he jumped onto the wall. Using his hands and feet, he disappeared in a few leaps. Logan turned around and rushed into the alley. Without looking back, he disappeared like a wisp of smoke. Well, it seems that even fists can't convince them. Liu shrugged his shoulders, smiled, and extended his palm. In his palm, a drop of dark red blood rolled like a water droplet. "At least I got Wolverine's gene sample." Putting away the drop of blood, Liu tidied his clothes and turned to leave. He came back alone. When he returned to the underground base, Charles was surprised to see Liu come back alone. Even you couldn't convince him? That's a wolf. Even if you beat him up, he won't turn into a dog. To tame a beast, you need to have enough patience. Liu shrugged, picked up his glass, and found a chair to sit down. Don't worry, he'll come back sooner or later. He's destined to be your companion. Well, I hope so. Charles shook his head helplessly. You guys have fun. Liu had no interest in the party between the young mutants. He waved his hand and returned to the room. Wolverine's immortality ability is still worth using. Sitting in the chair, Liu began to integrate Wolverine's genes. Pain. It's too painful. All the cells in his body were destroyed and reborn, and Liu grimaced in pain. Fortunately, it didn't last long. Soon, Liu had completed the gene integration. Majestic vitality, enormous vitality, it's amazing. Feeling the enormous vitality surging in his body, Liu was amazed. Wolverine's super recovery ability was almost the same as the legendary werewolf. With Sebastian's energy absorption plus Wolverine's super recovery and Charles's psychic power, this Sargeras character can't die, even if he wants to. Regardless of whether it was his soul or his body, unless he was hit by a bunch of nuclear weapons, he wouldn't die. Of course, that's not the key. Obtaining Wolverine's recovery ability is convenient for me to refine my soul. Anyway, he wouldn't die and could recover in an instant. Even if he accepted countless memories and received the impact of countless people's distracting thoughts, he wasn't afraid of his brain being messed up. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, Liu opened his mind and used the empathy method to accept countless memories and distracting thoughts to refine his soul. Chapter 1472. We received a tip-off that Sebastian has arrived in Russia. In the office above the underground base, Gretel took out a stack of documents and explained the situation to Liu, Charles, and Eric. Sebastian's purpose is obvious. He is pushing the polar bear to deploy nuclear missiles in Cuba. Everyone, we must stop him. Leave it to us. Charles closed the documents and smiled confidently. Our team is about to show off. Charles, there's still a group of children. Eric didn't have much confidence in this team. Even if they're children, they are still a group of excellent children. Charles confidently put away the documents and walked out of the office. When he walked downstairs, there was a commotion in front of him. There was music, screams, cheers, and even all kinds of hitting sounds. What is this situation? Charles froze for a moment and hurriedly walked in the direction of the sound. On the first floor of the office building, a living room was now turned into a dance hall. Ravens stood on the table and danced. Dragonflies stretched their wings and flew around in the air. Hank hung upside down from the ceiling fan and kept tapping to the beat. Darwin had turned into a stone, allowing the others to swing their stools and smash them heavily on his body. Screams and cheers turned the place into a bar. "You, what are you doing?" Gretel angrily roared. The lively scene suddenly stagnated. The group of young mutated humans quickly stopped and lowered their heads, not daring to answer. Too excellent. Eric shook his head and turned to leave. "You disappoint me." Charles's face was livid and also turned to leave. "A good dance party." Liu shrugged and winked at Raven. "Next time, don't have a dance party in the office. They can't be of any use. This time, just a few of us will go." Eric suggested to Charles. That's it. Charles's anger still hadn't subsided. He was thoroughly disappointed in the team he gathered. "You two can go, I'll stay behind." Liu turned to look in the direction of the office dance party and shook his head with a smile. "These guys need to be taught a lesson. It's time to teach them a lesson." Eric nodded. Without guidance and training, they're just a mob. "All right." Charles nodded helplessly. "Sargeras, give them a training session. Let them know what discipline is first. Leave it to me." Liu waved his hand and turned to walk in the direction of the office ball. "Hey, beauties, boys." Walking into the office, Liu waved at the group of mutants. Charles told me that you need a training session. Are you guys ready? Oh God, training? We are not secret agents. A group of teenagers was in their rebellious phase. Why would he have any interest in training? Of course, you're not agents. Liu nodded. But don't you want to control your power? Sound waves. When you speak, you might accidentally shatter the glass. Hank, your true strength is still lurking. Raven, you don't understand your own potential. You don't need training? All right, you're right. After mutants awakened their abilities, they needed a period of familiarization and exploration. Most people didn't understand their own strength, let alone control it. Very good. Liu waved his hand, and a row of test tubes appeared on the table. Everyone, a drop of blood. First, I need to study it and understand the nature of your abilities. Drawing blood is really not a pleasant experience. Mutants hated research and experiments the most. It made them feel like they had become lab rats. In fact, they were all Liu's lab rats. After a while, a dozen test tubes were delivered to Liu. Very good. You guys take a break first. After I analyze your strength, I will give you targeted guidance. Liu put away the test tubes and turned to leave the office. Raven, Sargeras, is he reliable? Many mutants didn't believe that a drop of blood could be used to study the characteristics of an ability. There's no one more reliable than Sargeras. If he says he can study it, then he can definitely study it. There's no doubt about that. Raven was very confident in Liu. After knowing him for so many years, Raven felt that there was nothing Liu couldn't do. Half a day later, Liu gathered everyone and went to the underground base. I've already studied your DNA samples and made optimization adjustments for some flaws. Liu took out a metal box, opened it, and showed it to everyone. A row of test tubes were neatly arranged in the box, each containing a variety of colored liquids. Flaws? Optimization adjustments? Hank blinked, his eyes flashing with a trace of expectation. What kind of optimization adjustments are you making? Yes. What's going on? Raven was also very interested. Hank's feet were the same as his palm, and Raven's blue skin had a layer of scales. This was the most painful part in their hearts. Even if humans could accept mutants, but their appearance didn't meet their standards. Why don't you try it yourself? Believe me, it will give you a pleasant surprise. Liu took out a golden test tube from the box and threw it to Hank. How do I use it? Hank looked at Liu with some hesitation. There won't be any side effects, right? You have to believe in Sargeras. Raven walked forward and stretched out her hand to Liu. What about me? Give it to me. Here. Liu handed Raven a test tube containing a colorless transparent liquid. Drink it. Just drink it. Oh, a witch's magic potion. Raven smiled, took the test tube, pulled out the stopper, and drank it in one gulp. Oh, swallowing the potion was like a flame erupting in her body. Raven groaned, her whole body covered in cold sweat. With a flash of blue light, she returned to her original form. Raven, how are you? Hank turned pale with fright and hurriedly ran up to support Raven. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm very fine. The pain only lasted for a moment. A moment later, Raven felt comfortable all over, as if warm spring water was flowing through her body. Ah, Raven, your skin. At this time, the other mutants around looked at Raven with shock, as if they saw something inconceivable. Skin. Raven turned pale with fright and hurriedly took out a mirror from her backpack. I've recovered? My blue skin is gone? In the mirror, there was a white and delicate face. There was no blue skin, no blue scales, only milky white skin. This wasn't a disguise, but her real form, her real skin. This is great, Raven cried with joy. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.